Chapter 901. The pressure of the dark and hot atmosphere around me makes it feel like thousands of hot molten blades stab into my flesh, and gravity crushes every cell individually until the pain receptors stop sending me signals. My whole body goes numb. The energy wave that collides with my core is met with equal force on impact, as I've focused all of my energy into a single point. Maria's in a similar state and still connected together were sent flying backward at an absurd speed. Large amounts of our soul armor are shattered off and fall below us. We are sent flying above the crack in the pyramid. So my ether senses watch the armor we worked so hard to collect fall into a darkness further away than I can see. Dense corruption spreads throughout my body again to try and regain control of my limbs. But as I do this, the demon's words echo in my mind. You killed my only two interesting guardians, and now you're trying to escape? The resources in the lower realm have almost gone dry. I don't think I've seen a single new noble show up in the last few millennia. The demon disappears and reappears in our flight path on the other side of the massive crack. A blue glow is spreading through Maria's body too, but neither of us have enough strength to shift our direction in time. I only sift through my memories faster to try and see if there is any valuable information in the lives of those two high nobles. The demon lets go of its dagger, and it floats up to its assortment of weapons. In exchange, it grabs a long cyan curved blade. Its core shines bright white with celestial energy, but its outer edges are almost entirely made of divine threads. The flash of white makes a memory surface in my mind. It is of a day the two guardians were waiting on this tower, and an exceptionally fast and strong noble demon challenged them. Instead of attacking head-on, it took to the skies and used a long-range soul weapon that looked similar to a boomerang. The two handled the demon in just a few minutes, but they did chase it through the sky quite high. A faint glow of white light high above resurfaces in my vision. The moment I recall this memory, more and more like it start to appear. Not just from that demon, but from the fragmented minds of the tens of thousands of demons I killed before. Every time one of them would fly on their dragons, high in the sky, trying to escape this nightmare of a ravine. Often they would see the same white glow. Sifting through them randomly, it just looks like a random nonsense celestial energy reading, but now as they all align in my mind, it takes a shape I can recognize. It looks like some kind of long white crack in space. My eyes shift upward the moment they get enough corruption channeled in them to move, and Maria feels where my attention lies. We focus all of our energy into our feet, and try to change course upward, but it's too late. The demon's curved blade comes falling down toward us. We could compress our defenses again and probably survive it, but we would only be blown back in the same fashion and have less energy to try anything else. Maria feels my determination and sees that I'm not defending, and follows my lead. Her explosion of ice through her feet is more powerful than the corruption I managed to summon, as I'm using a large amount to expand my perception. As we're blasted upward, the sharp cyan and white curved blade collides with my sword-wielding arm and slices through it without any resistance. The last feeling I have in the arm is of myself gripping the red blade and letting it fall back into my soul. My whole left arm, including all of the armor left on it, falls below us, down into the dark crack. I don't even feel it. My only focus is above us, and the sound of a demon's laughter in my mind as it's amused by our stunt. Oh, you're no fun at all. Putting away your sword before I can see it awaken. I guess I can dig through your soul once you're dead anyway. There's no rush in handing it over. It puts away its curved blade, then grabs a dark black axe. The genuine version of this novel can be found on another site. Support the author by reading it there. The demon disappears and reappears right in front of us. However, instead of attacking again, it just swings the axe around in its hand in a playful manner. The demon kicks off the ground slowly, matching our speed, and flying up in the air at exactly the same rate. Its deep purple eyes stare at our legs, then up toward the darkness we travel into. Now, how would you know about that? I've been watching the two of you since you made it to that first artifact pedestal, and you have never flown high enough into the sky. When it looks back down toward us, its gaze falls directly on me. You know, but she doesn't. Who? Oh, that's where I recognized your aura from. Could this be the work of that immortal dragon? The fallen one? You know how many times I killed his demons back when this ravine used to be exciting? The demon laughs, and my eyes widen at his words. That control freak would never go somewhere without being certain of the outcome. Your soul bonds are far too diluted and twisted together for this to be entirely his doing. But you have definitely met him. The demon tightens its gaze on me, then relaxes to look over at its axe, then back toward our legs as we both step upward through the air. We are clearing almost a full kilometer with every second that passes. A light glint of white light opens up in the darkness above us, and the demon nods, then swings its dark black axe our way. It is far too fast to even see. All I feel is our momentum slow. We can no longer step through the air, for legs fall down into the darkness below, with shards of soul armor fragments filling the red and blue essence flooding out of them. The demon appears on our opposite side, following through with its weapons slash. I'll give you one hit each. If you really think you can make it out, who am I to stop you from trying? It laughs even louder while the white glow above grows, and it swaps out the black axe for a deep purple-colored spiked club. The demon holds it resting over his shoulder, keeping its interested eyes on Maria's soul weapon as she starts charging it up with all her power. Her core contracts and pulses outward 3 times, and her gaze watches the light above us finally reveal itself. An enormous rift in space covers the sky. Turning our heads back and forth, it looks like it goes on endlessly in all directions and splinters off into many paths. Up close, it looks like it mirrors the layout of the ravine's spiderweb-like paths. Above the center of all the ravine's pathways, there is an identical rift that leads somewhere. It makes me remember the meeting the 2 high nobles had with Lucian, and how they were all dropped down into this network of caves and passageways. Even our own arrival to this place, somehow we fell through this rift. Looking up at it now, I can tell it's made of an ether-based energy. Behind it, there are swirling cyan threads that look just like the strange energy fields we flew through to get here from the green zone. However, the white glow that surrounds it gives off an aura like nothing I've ever seen before. I grit my teeth and let the tendrils of corruption I was using to propel myself upward instead flow into my lost arm. They flood out of my shoulder and create a pseudo-energy form, strong enough to hold my blade. It glows bright red when it appears out of thin air again, and becomes darker and darker as corruption floods into it. It won't be able to use as much power as before, but at least I won't have to focus on defending. I can still give it everything I've got to break through this barrier. The demon patiently waits, watching as both of us use everything we have to swing upward at the rift. It only shows a thin smile once we collide. Maria and I, on the other hand, are horrified. The explosive power in our attacks is everything we have. The peak of our royal vibrations thrust into this attack. There are hundreds of layers of vibrations around both blades. The royal corruption and royal blue ice with the source resin of an origin world strengthen our attacks to a mind-bending degree. Yet, on impact, our blades only stop moving forward like they have hit a solid barrier. They don't bounce off. They are only stopped short. I can feel the pressure behind this rift reverberate through my soul and understand that it is coated with some kind of higher refined ether that cannot be broken by celestial energy. Trust me, if I could break it, I would have left this place long ago. The demon remarks in an amused tone, with a hint of sorrow. That's high-quality ether for you. The Imperials made this place as a training ground back in their era. But now the lower-ranked family heads just use it as their prison, and let their kin believe they can make it out. Fatigue floods through my body, as I have truly hit my limit. My false arm and sword both fade back into my soul. Maria's core attempts to pulse again, but the surge of energy that comes out isn't strong enough to make a difference. The crystal sword in her grasp dissolves back into her soul. We both start to fall away from the bright white wall in the sky, back down toward the darkness. The demon reappears above us, holding its club in both hands as we slowly drift, and swings downward with a simple and direct movement. It is a shame. I've never seen anyone use that method of celestial energy cycling together to increase its purity. Your soul bond just wasn't strong enough to complete the true royal transformation. How did you ever expect to sync your vibrations if you kept the biggest secrets of your power from one another? It lets out a sigh while slamming the club down on our exhausted bodies. The pressure is so immense. It shocks my soul. I can feel all of my cores cracking, on the verge of exploding into dust. My fatigue is so great. All I want to do is fade away into the darkness. Yet, my instincts, and the tightly grasped hand of Maria, push me to do one final last resort move to save our lives. I force all of my remaining mental focus into a single finger on my one remaining hand. This whole time while traveling the ravine, I've been slowly figuring out how to manually activate functions of the system. There is one artifact that I haven't been able to stimulate yet, and I know its mission is dependent on my survival, so this is the perfect, and possibly the only time to push its limits. The black ring on my finger pulses ever so slightly with purple threads as it feels my cry for help. In response, an extremely fast surge of thin purple barriers pushes outward in two directions. It floods through both Maria's and my arms and covers our cores at the peak of the impact. They are fractured into thousands of pieces, but are held together in place to keep us alive. It is only a barrier of divine threads, capable of blocking physical attacks. The mental burst of this monstrous royal's energy is not weakened at all, and forces both of us to pass out cold as we're sent flying down into the darkness as fractured cores, only holding on by the arms held together by purple threads. The demon lets out a sigh and allows its club to float back up above its head, while it slowly descends, watching the remains of these two humans fall below into the crack at the center of the temple. Chapter 902. The unnamed ancient royal demon slowly descends and pulls a bright white soul weapon from its many slowly orbiting choices. It is a long staff that does not look like much of a deadly weapon. However, it shifts its shape the longer it's in the demon's hand. The object morphs into what looks like a massive bowl with a thin handle. It grabs the end of it and throws it down through the abyss. The object spins in the air and trails a sparkling white light behind it toward the light purple glowing remains of two humans who just tried to escape. They somehow managed to survive this demon's full-powered attack, not allowing it to capture their souls to pull out what has been stored deep within. Now, its eyes widen for a second time, as the soul weapon it's thrown down to capture their remains has bounced off, ricocheting in an unexpected direction. The white soul weapon deforms as it flies through the darkness, back into its original form, curving upward into the demon's hand. The blue, rainbow, black, and red soul energy held together by purple threads falls into the crack in the temple, and the demon scoffs aloud. I didn't sense that ring from the Imperial zone this whole time. It looked like nothing but a blood-bonded artifact from the lower realm. It curses under its breath and puts away the soul weapon. The demon stops floating downward right at the surface of the temple, looking down into the crack. I'm not going to try and break through there again. It's not like anything can leave this place. Your souls will leak out once you die eventually. It murmurs while shaking its head and crossing its arms. The massive crack that spans over 10 kilometers wide in the center of the temple is actually V-shaped the deeper down into the pyramid one looks, caused by billions of soul weapon strikes. Chipping away at the temple's center over the years after this royal demon found a clue that something interesting was inside. Yet, the deeper down it slashed, the harder it was to cut through this black stone. In fact, at the deepest point in this crack, the separation between sides is less than a meter thick. Below it, there is a dark black barrier that repelled its blades every time it tried to strike it. It is impossible to see through, and unlike the white rift in space above, this barrier caused backlash on this royal demon's soul every time he attempted to hit it. However, all of the shattered remains of these two humans' soul armor slip through the barrier like it is not even there. Their lost limbs fall through unscathed, and even their cores held together by a thin web of purple threads. The challengers of the strongest being in the ravine of the Cyan Zone have utterly lost their fight, but now their presence in the ravine has completely vanished. The entire bottom half of the Pyramid Temple's base is hollow. Its inner walls are coated in a black aura that gives off no energy presence at all. It is as though a darker void has concealed itself deep within the darkness of this ravine, hiding from the outside realm. The massive room inside is empty, but it is not dark. There is writing all over the walls that glows with a dim white light. It is as though the words have minds of their own, fluctuating and pulsing with delicate movements. Some of these symbols are written in the originator's language, while others are written in the unknown language that has been carved into every cave and pedestal throughout this ravine. The remains of the humans fall to the center of the room, on top of glowing text, and are not conscious. They cannot see or sense anything around them. There are statues on opposite sides of this square room. On one side, there is a demon with 2 long horns, and on the other, there is an angel with wide open wings. As the blood and leaking essence of the first visitors to this area of the temple since it was created seeps into the floor, the dim white glow of the runes begins to get brighter. Unauthorized usage. This narrative is on Amazon without the author's consent. Report any sightings. If the Rising Emperor were awake to see this now, it would look extremely similar to the inheritance chamber he found his amplifier in under the sea on the human world. The text on the walls looks as though it's floating off and resonating with the beings that have entered this ancient tomb. In the green zone, Seraphel and Abby both follow behind a high orc through many passageways in the fortress. There are no demon-run security checkpoints, nor main passageways that are blocked off to the public anymore. Navigating the citadel has become much more simple. The blue and green-haired humans have a straight-shot walk through the fortress to the Blue Wyvern's old vault. With the single activation of an ether command, the enormous 10-kilometer-tall door opens up wide to reveal a massive storage room inside. Abby and the security orc both stand at the door, while Seraphel steps up through the air, leaving small blue trails of water behind. There are countless black boxes stacked against the walls, all glowing with a faint white ether. Yet, he flies all the way to the back to open one that does not even glow. The blue-eyed human pulls out a massive black artifact, but it shrinks in size to fit into his hands the instant a small pulse of his aura is absorbed by it. He turns around with a smile on his face and floats back down toward the door. He looks directly into Abby's eyes. It is true. My old master from Kelfer once told me, the day we take back the green zone is the day the true inheritance can be reclaimed. A small palm-sized token floats above his hand and slowly spins, glowing blue and green. There is a raised imprint of a wyvern on one side, and a tree on the other. Memories of the wyvern's bones that Abby's staff is made of flash through her mind. It was an earth wyvern, with a unique affinity for nature, allowing it to grow plants and speed up the wildlife's progression on their world. However, she does not have any clue as to what this token is used for. None of her inherited memories share any information on it. Seraphel speaks again as they close the large door and walk further into the fortress. I do not know exactly what it means either. I only know that this was my duty in coming to the upper realm. I always thought I had to do this alone, but maybe there was far greater purpose than just saving my own race. The high orc walks them through many more passageways until all of the branching routes, random doors, and side routes stop appearing. They walk so deep into the fortress in one direction that there is only one way left to walk: forward. Their guide's voice echoes through the massive black corridor. In all my years, I've never made it into this part of the fortress. It is usually blocked off by the automated ether commands, a function put in place by the Citadel long before I started my work here. Rumor is it's a function that was put in place when the fortress was first created. The orc's eyes widen, and it stops moving forward. However, Seraphel and Abby continue walking just fine. Dense white ether commands hold the orc in place, but it only smiles and takes a step back. The restraints dissolve into the air. At the back of the hallway, there are 9 enormous black doors. All of them are locked shut, with no handles or way to open them. When either Abby or Seraphel looks toward many of the doors, a light white pressure washes through their mind, making them stop attempting to come near. There is only one door that fully captivates their attention. It shrinks down in size the closer they get. The entire experience looks like a simulated hologram. There are so many strange ether commands triggering in the room to create this manifestation, it is hard to believe it's real. The white wisps of energy in the air are made of ether, but they give off an incredibly pure aura like nothing either of them has ever felt before. Cannot be sensed, but even outside the Citadel, Many large white arrays are shifting and being activated for the first time in millions of years. Both the human and the wyvern are capable of wielding celestial energy, in its raw and base state using their celestial physiques, but the ether that pushes them in a single direction is far different and feels like it should not be prevalent in this green zone. Seraphel's hands raise the token in the air, and it floats away from him toward the door, colliding with its center and flooding it with a colorful blue and green essence. The instant it hits its center, it slowly swings open to reveal a pure white light inside. The human and wyvern's eyes are wide open, as it feels like every second longer they look at this bright white light. Their understanding of ether commands and celestial energy manipulation increases a significant amount. They walk forward in a daze, in a half-enlightened state. When the door behind them closes, the high orc is left in a dark hallway. Yet, the two visitors stand in an empty bright white room. The longer they stare forward, the more at peace they feel their bodies become. A pair of white eyes stare back at them. The eyes blink, and everything within the two soul-bonded beings' souls is released outward. Seraphel's enormous, bright blue celestial form is unleashed, and Abby's immortal healer's greater form is activated automatically. Her staff materializes in front of her and begins to slowly orbit around her body. The white room's walls don't look any further away now than they did moments ago, even as they have grown hundreds to thousands of times in size. The white eyes stare deeply into them, then move forward. The head of a massive white celestial wyvern moves closer. One of its eyes is larger than both the celestial bodies in front of it. The white wyvern blinks, and a voice echoes into Seraphel and Abby's minds. If you are receiving this message, I have long passed. You are the last remaining wyvern in both the lower and upper realm if the predictions of the Fallen One have come true. A sad thought, but it means the demons have lost control of my citadel in the future. The final reset can still occur before it is too late. The manifestation of the wyvern's white eyes open wide again. Allow me to show you a vision of the past. The most dangerous demon of my era. The royal that set in motion the extermination of our race. The nightmare of all wyverns. The monster that I must grant you the remainder of my power I have saved after my death so you can defeat what we could not. For the sake of all living beings, use what I grant you to defeat Lucian Morvale. A hot white pressure bursts out from the floating wyvern's eyes, and the room fills with the vibrations of a royal wyvern that once ruled the green zone of the upper realm. Chapter 903. The pair of soul-bonded partners begin to forget they are even standing in an ancient room within the fortress. The swirling ether around them that flows into their bodies, minds, and souls continues to increase their understandings of celestial energy to a staggering degree. It is as though ether maturity is flowing through their souls, adding to their foundations as if the remains of this wyvern's soul are now their own. They see through the white-winged wyvern's eyes, both below in the lower realm when it once thrived and looking over many wyvern worlds in a white star system of its own in the elite star sector. However, their planets, and many others with enough energy to produce high-potency noble life, were targeted over the years by the ruling royal family demons. As the previous overseer's seat was that of a wyvern, many advantages were still held by their race, with defense systems and hidden areas in the massive void of open space that lasted through the Imperials and Vanguard's reign. However, thousands of grand wars stream through Abby and Seraphel's minds, from millions of years ago. The destructive power of the attacks from yellow-core demons in the lower realm is almost unfathomable. Noble and high nobles were of common origin in both the wyvern and demon races. Many of their wars destroyed entire star systems and tore artificial tiers through the realms, creating dead areas of space where entire stars once rested. The slow and steady infiltration of stronger demons over time in the green zone is shown to them, how Lucian rose from the lower realm and bested this white wyvern in a great war. However, a strange fact that stands out in these passing inherited memories is the constant ascension of elves to the higher zones. The two races have come to an agreement for the armies of elves to hold back demons from progressing in the higher zones. However, the agreement itself is fuzzy, its details happening before this white wyvern's time. By the time it lost the green zone, there were little to no elves left. This timeline repeats over and over, and every time it does, certain techniques are more of a focus, to let the inheritors' minds subconsciously absorb them more naturally. Each time these battles, cultivation techniques, and moments of grand epiphanies pass, more details seep into Seraphel and Abby's minds, many of which reveal the recurring appearance of a sharp, crimson-eyed dragon. In this state of enlightenment, many hours pass, and the physical state of the two inheritors do not change as they absorb more and more knowledge. The ancient arrays that have activated outside the citadel continue to slowly spin, maintaining the state of this chamber and security commands that were put in place by its creator long ago. The fluctuations in the air can be felt tens of millions of kilometers away, at the floor of the green zone, below the newly built Grand Citadel. Hours have passed since the beam of celestial light elf magic burst through the sky, and Ember has already walked all the way over to the reactor that has been used in the past for zone-to-zone travel within the upper realm. He lets out a thin smile as the subtle fluctuations from the fortress hit his subconscious. In his right arm, a sleeping elf still lies unconscious. However, his left palm is touching the reactor without any barriers keeping it away. The dangerous waves of silver threads pulsing through the machine are colliding with his soul, and in return, a silver glint shines in the dragon's eye as he sends pulses of his celestial energy into the reactor. It fluctuates with white surges of its own ether commands, and the silver threads within it react in strangely symmetrical patterns, different than the unpredictable and erratic flow this reactor usually shows. Royal Road is the home of this novel. Visit there to read the original and support the author. Fatigue builds up in Ember's body again, growing worse and worse as the hours pass. However, he is not manipulating a large scale of threads like he was in his massive celestial battle form that spread across tens of thousands of kilometers. This is a more intricate task where he can focus and not cause too much mental stress. Ember murmurs to himself after a shift in the reactor makes all of the silver threads stop moving entirely. I will not be risking another fall into the ravine myself. We will have to meet once you make it out and become a true royal. He sighs and looks down at the sleeping elf in his arm. I have a lot of work to do with this one before that happens. I must fulfill a promise of the past. Where we're going, it appears we will have even more time to prepare. A white glow floods out from the still reactor. The area around it for thousands of kilometers appears to become a white void. An outsider looking in would only see dense tendrils of higher quality ether than anything in this zone, shooting up into the air and disappearing as though they're shifting through the realm. It is identical to the holographic manifestations that appeared when Muriel would speak with the royal family heads. Ember sends a final series of ether commands into the reactor, then releases his hand from it, holding Ran in both arms and closing his eyes with a calm expression. Both of their bodies are covered in a white glow and disappear from the green zone entirely. The only hint left behind, seen by no one, is at the very top of the ether tendril they stood beneath. It flickers with a dull purple glow at its highest point before the entire reactor starts to move again. Its frozen silver threads begin to twist and swirl, and the burst of ether in the air all contracts back toward its center. The bottom of the green zone is empty, without a single soul left behind. A zone above, in a Cyan palace, a royal demon walks down from his throne after many years of waiting. The monstrous demon in his base form stands over 2 kilometers tall. The hundreds of high noble guards that line his palace walls are protected by the unique arrays made of celestial energy and royal vibrations, as if they were truly standing in his presence. Without the atmosphere suppressing his aura, they would all be torn to microscopic shreds and killed instantly. None of them move, nor even think about turning a pupil in the direction of their family head. They have been ordered to stand and wait until spoken to. Doing otherwise would be a severe breach in loyalty and would lead to certain death. Lucian Morvale walks through his palace until he makes it to the end of the entrance hall. He looks down a flight of Cyan stairs that stretches hundreds of millions of kilometers down into a white misty void. Very potent clouds of celestial energy fill the air, and Cyan threads are tethered together to create this palace, held in place by its ruler's vibrations. The family head stares off into the endless Cyan zone, seeing the outlines of Cyan towers over 1 billion kilometers away. It is where the noble demons and their dragons live, those that ascended with him long ago, and a small few he has accepted as offerings afterward. Lucian lifts a hand and manipulates strands of white energy that reach far throughout this zone, making sure his orders for preparations of the sealing are being followed. He shows a light smile as progress is moving along smoothly, but it turns to a slight grimace shortly after as another system alert from the lower realm rings in his inner ear. This has been happening for over a decade now, ever since the realm wave came through. All of his hidden armies and claimed planets in the lower realm have been losing battles unlike anything he's seen before. It's already hundreds of millions of worlds lost, and a large chunk of the Morvale's private armies being systematically destroyed by an organized team of humans. It does not matter. All of these resources would have been lost in the sealing anyway. We have drained the origin plane dry of resources. They can fight over the scraps all they want. He murmurs, then breathes in a dense breath of celestial energy in the atmosphere. Once exhaling, the royal demon flicks a few strands of white threads, and his mental vision stares down through an enormous rift in space that is merged with this zone. It is as dark as this paradise is bright. Lucian's eyes scan the entirety of the ravine in less than a second, mentally tracking all of the deaths and new noble breakthroughs of first-class demons throughout the Pocket Realm. Still no sign of them. It appears they really did perish only 2 years in. A shame. I was hoping for more of a show. Lucian smiles slightly wider, showing a few of his sharp white teeth when he sees one of his experiments looking up at the fluctuating rift in the sky with hatred in his eyes. Maybe I should have chosen you to guard the green zone after all. You took longer to bloom than Muriel, but you have become a fine royal. I must admit I'm glad the Imperial seal is impossible to break. If anyone could best me in this era, it could have been you. The Cyan Cord Royal lets out a laugh as the demon in the ravine stares up with hatred. The palace shakes, and the entire zone bends under his pressure. Many nobles in the city over 1 billion kilometers away faint from the aura that the family head doesn't bother to suppress. Chapter 904. In the dark blue zone of the upper realm, a demon stands on the shoreline of a small island in a vast sea. Samir Vanguard wears a dark blue suit of armor that covers every single part of his body. There are only eye slits that expose a white glow underneath his helmet. Calm and calculated royal vibrations hold his defenses together as he stares off into the ocean, where waves flow for trillions of kilometers, further than his eyes can see in the base form he relaxes in now. It has been just over 2 days since the realm wave shook up this zone. He pulls a 5-faced clock out from a storage system and looks down at it occasionally, admiring the view. The artifact glows with a dense white ether, allowing it to shift in size depending on what form this family head is in. Right now, it is roughly 1/2 kilometer in diameter, floating above the palm of its armored hand. It is made of a dense black stone-like material, and deep within, there are silver gears that make each of the hands shift, tracking the progress of the realm wave. The green-faced clock, along with the dark blue one that matches the threads in this zone, both look as though the hands are standing still, not moving at all. However, the longer Samir waits, the dark blue clock's hand shifts ever so slowly, outpacing the green zone's clock by roughly 5 times. In the same amount of time, the yellow clock face, signifying the lower realm, has moved quite a noticeable amount. However, this is not where this royal's gaze lies. It is on the cyan-faced clock that has a hand spinning around at a visible rate. Every few breaths this demon takes, the single hand makes a full rotation. Its calm demeanor doesn't change at all. Samir only watches these dials spin to pass the time. His duty in the great family has been long fulfilled, yet he is still paranoid about the matter taking place in the lower zones. His gaze switches to the 5th dial that glows purple, its single hand spinning around so fast it almost becomes a blur when he decides to drop the artifact back into his storage and mutters to himself. They act as if we have time to spare. These new generations don't understand the threats that can still rise from the origin plane. We are not safe until the seal has been fully set. Waves crash a few 100 million kilometers away from him as he speaks, as the release of these royal vibrations has disturbed a creature lurking beneath the sea. Large swells in the sea start to make the shore at his feet recede, even at this distance away. The endless ocean may look like a dark blue body of water, But it is far more than just that. Concentrated celestial energy has pooled together at the bottom of this zone, and the divine threads that reside here have naturally tethered to the densest mass in the environment. If it were to separate and try to fill the atmosphere with light particles like down in the Scion zone, this dimension would need to expand by an unfathomable degree. The swells in the sea finally pop when the black heads of a massive hydra rise to fill the sky. Its many pairs of eyes look empty, and its scales have lost their color. All that fills the sentinel's soul is the will of the demon that tamed it into a living weapon. Yet, it still holds flickers of its former attitude and does not enjoy being disturbed for no reason. Samir looks up at the enormous beast that has only lifted a tiny portion of its mass from the sea but doesn't bother to give it any more attention, muttering in a low tone as though something nearby should be able to hear it. You might be reading a stolen copy. Visit Royal Road for the authentic version. Entertain this one. I'm not in the mood to play. I need to prepare for the worst. I still do not have faith in the words of the younger ones. Then he turns around and takes a step forward, disappearing in a burst of dark blue threads. The demon travels over 1 trillion kilometers away to return to its army. Where it once stood, the island starts to grow. Massive waves begin pushing back on the Hydra as the ground where the family head once stood expands by hundreds of times. More and more islands start to form all around it, like pointed black mountains jutting up from the blue sea. Eventually, as these mountains rise high enough out of the ocean and into the sky, they all connect to form what looks like a curved collection of them in the shape of a shell. An ancient beast's head rises from the celestial sea with what looks like a sharp beak, and behind and around this shell, a tail and 4 legs push this creature upward out from the ocean. An unfathomably large tortoise with the same dead eyes and flowing will of the royal family head stares back at the Hydra. 2 extinct races of overseers that were fully exterminated during the Vanguard's era stare each other down, and roars fill the air as they spar, releasing portions of their wills left behind. In a zone below, deep within the ravine, a royal still stares up at the rift that fluctuated for the first time in over a decade. The last time was the arrival of these 2 humans he believes he's killed. Yet now as he scans the ravine, no new life forces can be sensed. This only means someone is looking in. He doesn't give Lucian the satisfaction of hearing his true thoughts, so he waits until the rift reverts back to its natural state before he speaks his mind aloud. Now that was strange. Why would he be so interested in those 2 humans? The facade of anger that he had, glaring upward, goes away entirely, and an amused smile crosses his face. The jet-black-skinned demon, with dozens of soul weapons hovering around its head, floats down to the temple's crack again and stares into the darkness. These soul remains have not drifted out. I really would like to get my hands on that amplifier in the next few thousand years. He murmurs to himself, then lets out a sigh and begins to scan the ravine's outer edges, looking for anything interesting to pass the time. Deep within the temple, the 2 souls that have fallen to its text-covered walls have been linked together by a faint collection of purple strands of divine threads. Neither human is conscious, as the full-powered mental attack of a royal that honed its vibrations and collected celestial energy for millions of years is one that neither of these fresh royals could possibly handle. All they see is white. Their thoughts have ceased, and they're suspended in a state of artificial animation by the artifact fallen from the Imperial zone. However, their instincts are heightened. The man's body is filled with dark tendrils of demonic corruption, and this energy swirls together with bright red celestial fire in his soul. The 2 are having a battle of their own, as the corruption seeks to become the dominant force in that body and mind. Yet the celestial fire is the only thing healing it slowly and keeping the vessel alive. All 3 of his cores are fractured and shattered beyond what could naturally be withstood, yet they are held together by extremely thin purple threads. This in turn has completely let down all of the barriers that have been holding back subconscious and conscious energy flows from reverting to a natural state. The woman is not in any better condition. Her mind has been struck by this backlash, putting her mental state into the same artificial coma. However, her soul energy core acts far differently. There are no cracks on its surface. Instead, it has just slowed its cycles to a near-death-like state. The entire nature-bending anomaly has been shocked by the wave of energy that overpowered it. Instead of there being a point of darkness at its center, without anything to hold it back, if one were to look into its center now, they could see all the way down into its true purpose. Leaving such an anomaly exposed to the open air would normally drain and consume everything its senses could touch. However, there is no active mind to stimulate its destructive properties. Both souls have their secrets laid bare in front of each other, yet all they can do is act on pure instinct. They have been cycling celestial energy through one another for over 2 years. Now, even without minds to think, the energy left in their damaged bodies and cores starts to slowly cycle back and forth. The first complete cycle takes over a full day to pass through, but after the 10th, that time is cut in half. By the 100th cycle, the bright celestial energy passes through them every hour. Not only this, but the natural healing properties of this energy begin to move the lost limbs back toward their center of mass, and slowly rebuild their bodies and regenerate their lost blood. Their vibrations are not perfectly synced anymore, as many variables have changed and barriers have been lifted. All of the lost blood, celestial energy leaking soul essence, and vibrations that bounce off the walls of this temple make the glowing white characters covering all 6 inner walls shine brighter and brighter. Some of the symbols start to spin, while others morph into different texts and shift like they are weaving automated complex arrays. Chapter 905. The cycles of celestial energy back and forth continue to flow faster and faster, nearing their former speed. As the core's cracks slowly heal, the body parts that were scattered across the temple floor reform back to their original states. Blood is regenerated, and vitality slowly grows back into the near-death human-shaped vessels. The purple threads that were desperately holding them together fade away once intact and able to hold themselves on their own. The ring returns to its dormant black form. Many of the broken blood-bonded armor pieces and new celestial energy-bonded crafts stay scattered across the floor. They are not necessary to rejuvenate the life forces of the 2 humans, and their energy signatures are too foreign to be included in this purely instinctual healing process. Even with no distractions, it takes over a full decade in the darkness for the mental damage of this royal demon's attack to start showing signs of reversal. The bright white burst of pure pain that fried all of my senses finally begins to melt away from the depths of my mind. It was layered with so many royal vibrations and so much celestial energy purity denser than my own, that chipping away at the poison that seeped deep into my mind and soul has been an ongoing process for longer than I can comprehend. In fact, I can't remember it at all. Small specks of white light flickering throughout this dark room start to appear in my ether senses. They are like pinholes through a veil that still blinds me. It is not only sight. Every single one of my senses is blocked, yet somehow more and more specks are peeping through to allow me to see and feel. It's like a seal is slowly being melted away, finally letting me breathe the fresh air beyond it. My body and subconscious feel as though so much time has passed. Oddly, even longer than I've even consciously been connected to the system feels as though it's gone by. I can vividly feel every single celestial energy cycle I've shared with Maria as these years passed, like they've imprinted into my body and soul. However, the last true memory I recall was being defeated by the royal demon above a pyramid-shaped temple with absolutely no chance of winning. The power gap was too massive. A few of my wandering thoughts half believe I've died, but the feeling of my purple ring activating right before losing consciousness keeps resurfacing to assure me that somehow it saved us. I know Maria is alive because my celestial energy cycles keep coming back to me as cold blue celestial light to refine every half second or so. However, it's incredibly hard to feel her vibrations or true presence. All of my senses are still limited by tiny pinholes of access as my mind is still overflowing with a lethal poison from the demon's mental attack. The more energy I put into looking outward, the more of these pinholes begin to close up, and the pain returns, reverting my perception of the outside to only white again. I mentally shut off all of my curiosity and let the instinctual healing continue its process. The mending of my mind progresses gradually, but speeds up the less poisonous energy remains in my mind and soul. Every few thousand cycles, I take small peeks outside to assess the progress, but doing so causes major setbacks, so instead, I settle for a less energy-demanding, watered-down version of my senses. It gives me weak energy readings, and only really focuses on the vibrations that are processed through the energy Maria sends me. Trying to view anything outside of my own body is far too difficult. One of the first things I witness with these dampened senses is the strange sensation of the dark corruption that has been released from my core actually flowing through my body without trying to devour me alive or take control. Flowing side by side with this darkness is the bright red celestial fire that has healed my body back to its prime condition. The two energies merge and separate at will as they flow side by side through all of my pathways. The long period of time necessary for my mind to heal has forced the two competing energies to work together to keep me alive. The darkness does not leave my body. Instead, it acts as a conductor for the celestial energy to flow through far faster than if it weren't here. It seems as though even the blue celestial ice that flows in from Maria is not overwhelmed by this demonic presence either. It acts as though the blue energy is my own, and merely needs to cycle through my core before it can fully integrate with the corruption again. More and more pinholes open wider, allowing me to see further for longer, to the point where I can finally feel Maria's vibrations and get a sense for how they resonate with mine. It is odd. Her vibrations feel different, like they are flowing more freely, but the instant I recognize this, I realize that mine are slightly different as well. Our wills have shifted and altered slightly to adapt to our predicament, but I can't fully conceptualize how or why. As the viewing holes in my senses widen even more, I can start to feel things with even greater clarity. One of those things is the understanding that Maria is viewing me in the same exact way. Neither of us has any idea where we are, or how we survived this long. However, the instant we both mentally process that we can sense the other, our vibrations pulse in erratic patterns of surprise, excitement, and even embarrassment. Not only have all of our clothing and gear been shattered to pieces farther away than we can sense, leaving us lying naked beside each other, but the secrets we've been keeping locked away in our cores are out in the open for both to see. My corruption flows slowly through my body for her senses to probe, and the soul energy core in her chest has no barriers at all blocking my senses from looking deep within it. After our intense mental fluctuation of realizing the other's presence, neither of us tries to hide. Instead, we slowly wash our senses through one another. Our vibrations have become more alike, making these scans easier, but at the same time, they are still not perfectly synced. Attention holds them back from fully aligning with one another to create an understanding. Every cycle that passes through us now alters our vibrations even more. My mental senses dive into the anomaly that has been hidden for so long, and the burst of emotions and information that ripples through me limits all of my other senses to allow me to fully be immersed. I am still in a weakened state, so when I see a soul energy core with limitless depth tethered together by an invisible force, it is difficult to conceptualize at first. In fact, it's impossible to see all the way down into it with just a single glance. My first instinct is to leave, as my mind is stretched and forced to try to understand an impossible area of finite yet infinite space and energy. It all simultaneously flows outward and falls inward on a single point. This point holds all of her energy, vibrations, and emotions. The strongest feeling that both pulls me in and tries to push me out is fear. It is Maria's fear, like a tight pull of anxiety crushing in from all sides. The deeper I look in, the worse and more dangerous it feels. I don't understand why or how this invisible force has become so physical in my senses. It's as though her strongest vibrations deep down are creating this construct to guide me. I can feel parts of myself inside it. Like every step I've ever taken or word I've ever spoken to her fills this endless stream of energy I stare into. The memory of holding Maria on the verge of death in the green zone resurfaces, and this exact feeling is exactly what was flowing out from her body. It was only calmed the moment we kissed. The instant I feel this same emotion, the center of her core grows with even more depth. The single point I was analyzing looks like it somehow expanded, as though walls of fear just dissipated to allow me to see a little more of what is already in front of my eyes with greater clarity. At the same time, Maria's mind seeps deep into the corruption that flows through my body. On its surface, it too seems tranquil, like it is having a symbiotic relationship with the red celestial fire in this body. However, the more her vibrations flow through it, the The true reason it was held back and away from her starts to unravel itself in packets of emotions as well. The rage that flows deep within this darkness is menacing. It is inhuman. The hatred that has manifested itself into a physical form is equivalent to staring at death itself. Yet, it perfectly flows hand in hand with the calm and healing celestial fire beside it. At first, it is illogical. It doesn't make sense how the two aren't at odds. But the deeper she lets her senses feel, the more fear she senses within both of these energy streams as well. It was locked away in the darkness before, but now that two parts of one soul collide inside this body, the real reason for locking it all away starts to float to the surface. The feelings of being trapped, too weak, of losing control. These all surface first. As they do, and Maria's concentration doesn't waver, accepting them as they are, they start becoming more complex. Scenes of the past are triggered in her inner consciousness. It shows Jay on many battlefields, at moments where all hope seemed lost. Over and over, countless times. The feelings of overbearing enemies threatening to take his life, and the thought of losing everything he'd worked to build. Yet these memories become more and more refined and focused. The strongest one surging out at her is Jay's point of view when she nearly died in the green zone. A true fear ripples through this corruption, and the red celestial energy merging with it. She's able to finally look deeper, and Maria sees inside what he was really hiding. This shift in pressure causes the next few celestial energy cycles through our bodies to flow faster and with far more intensity. So much so, that our minds heal enough to sync with our bodies and give us true sight for a moment. The visuals of millions of floating white glyphs in this strange room flow into my mind, but the most exhilarating sensation is that I feel Maria's hand in my grasp. Ever since we were dropped into the ravine, my true sense of touch has been blocked from use by a strange seal. Yet now I can feel everything, down to even the tiny divots of her fingerprints moving against mine. A soft and warm pressure I almost forgot existed in this darkness. It makes our concentration waver for a moment just as we're about to peer over the edge of each other's minds. Out of instinct, our minds expand enough to move our muscles and basic bodily functions again. We pull each other closer to make sure we do not lose this deep connection. Chapter 906. As we pull each other closer, the cycles of celestial energy have far more points of skin contact to flow through. Not only does this momentary blip of experiencing touch for the first time in years not break the connection, it instantly makes it deeper and more intense. Our senses overlap and begin to pour into each other's souls. The cycles grow faster, rejuvenating our minds at an increased rate, and allow for more and more of our senses to be heightened and released from the blank white prison they were trapped in. I finally get to peer over the edge, deep into Maria's soul energy core. Everything is laid bare before me. I can even see the intricate manifestations of her fear and anxiety containing this power by invisible mental constraints. Some manifest as self-doubt, holding on tightly to an image of herself that she used to be, that doesn't believe she can grow strong enough. Other invisible seals are subconscious manifestations of her vibrations that show as visuals of me. They are visions of the past. She is chasing after me whenever I reveal new powers. I can feel that the mind-bending endless potential of this anomaly stems from this feeling. As time and time again I grow stronger and she's had to catch up. I'm quite literally looking into the depths of her path, what makes up her soul. At the same time, our bodies collide, as not only does this contact allow for our cycles to grow faster, but it's allowed me to see Maria in all her beauty, looking deep into my eyes. It's the brightest and most beautiful blue I've ever seen. I turn over to kiss her, and feel her hands pulling me closer to kiss me back. Our senses are looking deep into one another's souls, but there are still parts of her I cannot see. We pull each other even closer. Maria regains her true senses for the first time in years as well, and it comes as the sensation of an insatiable heat flowing through her whole body of ice. As she lets her mind flow into Jay's soul, the urge to pull herself closer and open up everything she's kept trapped away to only herself becomes overwhelming. As hot lips touch hers, she sees everything and feels everything about the man in her arms, and finally begins to unravel the real truth to why his vibrations move the way they do. The tightly bound emotions that hold these two forces of dark destruction and bright healing creation apart should not naturally reside within the same body. He does not want one to overpower the other, and deep down is scared to find out what would happen if he does. All this man filled with fire knows is that in order to protect everything and everyone around him, he has always had to kill, destroy, and never let his guard down because there is always a bigger enemy. The vibrations look as though they are tethering this body and soul together with unbreakable strength, but in reality, it is an unrelenting fear of change. Fear of letting others down that rely on him, and by that same right, fear of letting himself down. It is fear of the unknown. The celestial energy cycles speed up as the movement of the two bodies explore each other's beings. At first, just hands over each other's smooth skin and tight muscles are enough to stimulate the bond. But each soul grows and craves more. The rhythmic pulsing and spinning white glyphs that float all throughout the air resonate with the way these two bodies begin to move and interlock. They glow brighter and float toward the center of the room. The author's content has been appropriated. Report any instances of this story on Amazon. Maria pulls me inside her, and I finally feel what lies deep within her soul. Pleasure and the sensations of my mind completely healing, even growing and expanding far past what it was before, flow through my whole body. Not only can I touch and see, I begin to smell, taste, and hear the world around me again. Jay, I love you, are the first words I hear, and they completely dissolve all of the protective seals left in Maria's soul. I see that the only thing holding her back from letting me in was a fear that I wouldn't accept her. It was a fear that she would be chasing a shadow upward until it disappeared from her sight. A fear that I would reject this feeling and not want to be by her side. Maria has taken her chance to speak her secrets into the void. The overwhelming heat in her cold body only becomes hotter as she chooses to be the most vulnerable she has ever been in her entire life, letting Jay into her body and mind. For many celestial energy cycles, she feels him touching the deepest parts of her soul, while the pleasure and ripples of rejuvenating cycles of energy have heightened all of her senses to become an erotic blur. There is still a heavy blanket of invisible tension holding her mind back, until Jay's voice echoes through the darkness. Maria, I love you more. Her own vibrations that hold herself back instantly burst, and the fiery body that moves in perfect rhythm with her becomes a tapestry of lights and emotions that were hidden from her before. The truth within the vibrations of strength only has one reason to exist at its center: to protect her. The intricate web of seals and layered vibrations with many other purposes that surround the inner portion of his soul was hidden for the exact same reason as hers. Jay would do anything not to lose her, and the possibility of her not feeling the same way held him just far enough apart to stay safe. When Maria's soul sees this and hears his words, the final barriers keeping their souls apart give way as if they were never there. Both minds, bodies, and souls experience a climactic moment of bliss as they accept each other's strengths and flaws as their own. The celestial energy cycles between the two bodies sync in perfect unison. There is no longer a gap between each refinement process. It is a constant flow where their skins touch and interlock. A true soul bond is formed. All of their senses heighten further with every passing moment, and their vibrations shift as their wills become more aligned. Their deepest fears and greatest goals have been revealed before one another, and they align with perfect resonance. The white runes and spinning glyphs all over the temple's walls glow brighter and brighter every second. They all converge inward on the two in the center of the temple and flow onto their bodies like light droplets of rain on a pond. The ether imbued in these symbols does not feel like anything at all. In fact, as they imprint onto the two human skin, they only glow and pulse for a few seconds, then disappear like they were never there. Millions of these symbols slowly float down from all 6 sides of this temple. Minutes pass, then hours, and eventually the temple and those inside it lose track of time. The walls begin to lose their glow and become dull and flat once all of the symbols are pulled off of them. The two bodies only glow brighter with every absorbed piece of the temple, as the absorption of an inheritance during this passionate soul bond has triggered a state of enlightenment beyond the capabilities of any normal royal-grade soul bond. Bright blue and red auras fill the room instead. As the temple's legacy has been passed on, the dark barrier around it slowly starts to fade. The demon and angel statues on either side of the massive room begin to hum, reacting to the new auras that touch them. Outside, the entire pyramid starts to shake, and small cracks begin to form on the bottom steps near all four sides of this monument. Far away, in a space outside of the lower and upper realms, a black tablet with a single symbol on it starts to glow a dim white color for the first time in longer than any mortal being can comprehend. The light glow makes the presence of this tablet known in the endless darkness it's been resting in, and many creatures of the void float toward it. They have long limbs, no defining features, and have been floating endlessly in this place, waiting for a spark since the birth of this universe. Many of the void creepers have withered away, or fallen into eternal slumber once their systems ran out of light. Yet a small few have held on to life and continued to drift in this void between space waiting for a calling. The dim glow attracts two of these entities at first that are nearby. They drift past many other black tablets that do not show even a glimmer of energy remaining in them. Some are cracked, others are nothing but dust, and many just look like dead and lifeless stone. They are all aligned in rows, and head off into infinity in all directions. There is no sense of true time or space like the origin plane here. The beings attracted to this tablet are only drawn to it by instinct. They have no desires nor goals. They do not even know what the space they exist in is, or how it came to be, or why they have changed their constant state of wandering to stop before this tablet. More void creepers find themselves attracted to this glow. Soon over 10 surround it, and eventually over 100 gather in a circle around the tablet to stare down at it in silence. Chapter 907. After hours in perfect resonance, our soul bond is complete. Our celestial energy cycles slow down, as we've reached a point where it cannot be refined any further. I feel as though I should be fatigued, as I've released more energy than I ever have in any battle. Yet instead, I feel refreshed and stronger than ever before. The entire massive room we're in is perfectly clear to my eyes. There are flat walls, 2 statues at the back sides, and shattered soul weapons and armor all over the floor. After laying together and enjoying the moment of peace, as our bodies and minds create no disturbance between each other at all, this silence is finally broken by a light sound of cracking. It makes the floor vibrate ever so slightly, and even the statues begin to hum and give off extremely dull white glows. I can see the demonic statue to my back react with the red aura I pour out into the air, and the angel statue behind Maria glimmers with a blue tint. Deep within the center of both statues, I see a single glyph that seems to power them. It is identical and looks extremely familiar, yet I cannot remember what it means or where I've seen it before. We both accept our moment has come to its natural end and stand up as the floor starts to shake even more. Both of us pour tendrils of concentrated red and blue aura out from our souls to collect all of the blood-bonded and soul armor crafted from thousands of nobles, and in seconds, they reform all over our bodies. Our new auras mend them and strengthen them even further than their original forms. Outside, the 4 stairways tremble, and fractures begin forming all over them. A pressure fills the void and overwhelms the senses of all the noble demons that still try to climb these stairs. Dragons fall from the sky, and all of the movement for thousands of kilometers in every direction halts as the whole temple glows with a faint white light. It starts at the bottom, but the cracks move all the way up to the top, causing the structural integrity of this pyramid to waver. The lone royal demon in this ravine has wandered far away, as he became uninterested in waiting any longer. However, even at the furthest edges of this darkness, the eerie pulsing and white light that comes out from these cracks hit his senses. It is unlike anything he has ever felt in the ravine before. This dark-skinned royal finishes up what he is doing by releasing a ball of darkness from the tip of a spear-shaped soul weapon, sending it down on a pedestal where 6 nobles stand. He finds one that looks like it is near the verge of a high noble breakthrough and considers training it for a few millennia, but instead, he's found something else to satiate his boredom. The ball of dark black celestial energy obliterates the pedestal, and every demon within hundreds of kilometers of the blast dies on the spot. For over 10,000 kilometers in every direction, The shockwave knocks out even nobles, flooding through the web-like pathways of the ravine. This royal doesn't even look down at the destruction. He only smirks and lets go of the spear to let it float up above his head again, and takes a step forward into the darkness in the direction of the temple. Unauthorized usage. This narrative is on Amazon without the author's consent. Report any sightings. It's them. The humans. They survived. The demon disappears, and its cloud of darkness dissipates into the atmosphere where it once floated. I watched the dark black barrier that sealed the outer edge of this temple's walls from the outside ravine fade. Once I can sense what the outside of this room looks like, I'm able to mentally piece together how we got here. After losing the battle with that royal demon, we fell into the crack of this temple and recovered on our own. Why the demon did not follow us down here and finish us off, I'm not sure, and why the sensory barrier is being lifted now is a mystery to me as well. I begin to watch the temple crumble all around us. The stair fractures grow too large and collapse under their own weight. The battlefield at the top of the structure breaks and falls away as there is no longer anything supporting its weight. However, the floor below us moves upward, and the fading protective barrier makes all of the falling black stone rubble fall to our sides. Even the walls and ceiling of this room start to crack and fall away. Once the barrier fully dissipates, leaving us out in the empty air of the ravine, all that remains of the temple is a raised pillar of black stone reaching up even higher than the pyramid was before. A massive amount of rock has ejected from the ground to raise us up, and at the highest point of this monument, the now glowing statues of a red demon and blue angel with a white glyph in both of their chests glow like a beacon into the darkness. Yet, the darkness of the ravine isn't as eerie and disorienting anymore. The feeling of suppression, like some kind of heavy seal that was blocking my senses, it's far weaker. I can see far out into the endless caves and valleys of black stone with my own eyes as clear as a night with a bright full moon. There is even a recognizable fluctuation in the darkness rocketing our way from far out in the ravine, but noticing its presence doesn't affect my calm mood at all. Maria and I float up in the air, even higher than the raised temple and its statues. Our own red and blue auras outshine the pale imitations below us. Our extremely refined celestial energy finally has space to expand, and the result of healing our minds after the immense mental trauma from that demon has brought our energy control maturity to a far higher level. There is no longer any tension in our vibrations. Nothing holds our minds and souls back from showing everything and allowing our powers to bloom. Red and black waves of energy flow like lava out from every pore on my body, seep deep into my armor, and saturate my entire being from head to toe. It is a fluctuating mixture of destruction and creation in harmony that reveals my true royal state of existence. The liquid energy even covers my face and forms a set of horns on both sides of my forehead to perfectly reflect the portion of power I've absorbed from demons. And as I summon my sword into my hand, it glows bright red, flickering with flames of life representing the human side flowing through my soul. Maria sparkles and glimmers as though a new level of beauty has been unleashed into reality. Source resin flickers over her smooth skin and enhances her vision, leaving white reflective sparkles behind her every movement. Her soul energy core is perfectly calm. There is no longer any black hole in its center, nor is there any invisible thread of energy holding it back from realizing its full potential. Her entire being only exudes a pure, powerful blue royal glow. The infinite sources of celestial energy are pouring out from every single cell of her being, like a countless number of cores are being activated at once. The energy is flooding into her armor, and creating the aura of a woman that is filled with the confidence to be herself and dominate reality around her without any doubts. As her sword is summoned from her soul, it glows and sparkles with the same glimmer her eyes exude, and her aura becomes filled with an icy wave of light. The manifestations of sparkling angel wings grow from her back to reflect the depths of her soul. Our royal vibrations flow in unison and invigorate each other's weight in reality. This power is no longer a mysterious passive additive that strengthens our attacks. Instead, it has become so deeply tethered into our souls that I feel myself unconsciously casting tens of thousands of layers of intent just as I move my arm upward to raise my sword. What took intense concentration and pure focused willpower to develop layers of vibrations in my attacks before we fell into the temple now feels like a child's measly attempt at imitating the real thing. My eyes are layered with thousands of new royal vibrations to enhance their abilities every time I shift my pupils. The aura of corruption and celestial fire that swirls through my being and around my body is constantly triggering millions of layers of vibrations just in its resting state, ready to unleash far greater power at the mere thought of it. There are no longer any distractions or barriers of doubt holding back my ability to follow my path to rule. We have become true royals. Chapter 908. The fluctuation coming our way deep from within the ravine grows stronger, and I see a familiar dark crescent of energy cutting through the void our way. It is the same exact shot from that royal demon's small dagger, the first long-range hit we received from it that sealed our fate as the losers of the first exchange. It was so powerful that I had to sacrifice my entire body and focus every drop of my energy around my cores to survive a direct hit. We have more than enough time to dodge, but there is no need. I only smile beneath the layers of red and black energy that cover my facial expressions and slowly swing my blade across my body. It looks elegant, as flickering crimson fire trails behind the movement of my arm, as though I'm putting on a performance. The center of my sword collides with the center of this dark slash, and hundreds of thousands of layered vibrations ripple through my arm and automatically burst out from my blade. The entire wave of darkness stops in midair, as though it's hit an immovable force. As it tries to move forward, it looks like it's bending against space, flexing like tough rubber. Yet, at its stress points, the darkness turns red. Instantly, fire floods through the attack, and it bursts into harmless celestial energy residue, dissolving in the air while I follow through with my entire swing. My gaze cuts deep into the void to watch the royal that threw that attack come rocketing our way while grabbing two soul weapons at once from his arsenal. Before, when this demon moved at this speed, I thought he must have been teleporting. I see that he was just moving too fast for a limited mind to comprehend. Now, I can see its every movement in perfect clarity. The sound of jingling chains echoes through the air, as in both hands, this demon holds the handles of a bright white pair of soul weapons. Each one has 5 celestial energy-saturated chains glowing out from a single point, and each chain holds a spiked ball. The demon begins to spin them around its body, creating a simultaneous defensive and offensive domain while it yells out into the void. You survived. Humans. Really? A lesser race was the key to opening this temple all along. Its laugh follows as it swings both of its arms forward, and one of the spiked balls on each set of chains moves forward faster than the others. 8 are left behind, while 2 move faster than the demons advance. A stream of constant dark celestial energy flows out from the demon's arms, and black chains elongate the reach of the attacks further than all the others at a fixed distance on their white chains. They're headed straight at us, making it obvious that we're not going to be able to talk things out. It seems like quite the intelligent demon compared to everything else in this ravine, but it still wants to kill us on the spot. Waves of understanding ripple through the blue and red auras in the air, and both of us take steps forward, bursting outward to opposite sides of the demon. This is the first moment since entering the ravine that we're leaving each other's sides. Even the thought of breaking skin contact to stop our energy cycles or possibly being lost in the darkness was worse than death before. Now, I am at peace flying through the air away from her at a distance. Our connection can't be broken by distance any longer. We can feel each other deep within our souls as though we're still together. I step through the air and spin, leaving a spiral of red fire behind me while I curve around the spiked ball headed my way. Behind it, for more shift their positioning and curve toward me. The bases of all their white chains begin to turn black as this royal channels energy into them and manipulates their lengths at will. Even the ball behind me curves in the air as tension is placed on its chain, and it's pulled back toward me. None of this phases my elegant strides through the darkness. In fact, it's quite refreshing to use this new power. I feel like everything is moving in slow motion around me, and at the thought of anything I desire, it will happen. I can bend through space, stepping on air like it is solid. When I turn to swing my blade across my body and release a wave of bright red fire, with a core of dark black corruption at its center, It collides with one of the spiked balls coming my way and slices it clean in two. I dive forward through the split soul weapon as its chain snaps and kick off another approaching ball with my foot, as though it's nothing but a launch pad and not a deadly weapon meant to take me out. A spike on the ball right behind me juts out over 2 meters, just about the same as my own height in this base form. I can feel the urge to release a new form brewing deep within my soul, but there is so much power already at my fingertips, it feels like a waste to reveal it to such an unworthy opponent. My current state is all I need to take out this enemy. The spiked ball beneath my foot shatters into thousands of fragments as I kick off of it and slice through another spiked ball after changing directions. I let the flames and darkness surrounding my body expand and strengthen the aura that is flowing out from me as I fly toward the last 2 spiked balls on that side of the demon. I can feel millions of layers of royal vibrations tightening and activating as my presence in reality tethers to my true Sai and divine core. Space bends as I burst forward, and don't even bother to swing my blade for these last obstacles. Once within 10 meters of my flaming body, the 2 massive spiked balls crack and lose their momentum forward. I fly in between both of them, carving a perfect circle through them. A half-moon crescent is carved into the sides of each spiked ball as I pass them, and their structural integrity breaks once my strongest portion of aura leaves them behind. Both shatter to white dust and their chains lose all their tension. On the other side of the demon, Maria slices through the first spiked ball just the same as I did. A single precise swing of her blade creates a thin, sparkling blue line through the center of the soul weapon coming her way. The color quickly spreads to the entire ball and even begins traveling down the long chain. By the time she's close enough to make contact, the entire spiked ball shatters to sparkling mist. The demon has to sever its connection to this chain before the ice travels through its arm. Maria doesn't slow down one bit. Her manifested angelic wings flap once slowly, and she bursts forward through the open air, her eyes glowing royal blue, and a cold domain of ice tethered to millions of royal vibrations and a never-ending energy source pouring out from her whole body. It fills the air. All 4 of the other spiked balls that try closing in on her from every direction freeze in place as she flies through them. It looks like she's stopped time for a moment, but it's clear the chains and soul weapons have just been turned to ice once she passes them all by. They shatter to dust without her having to even move her sword or make any direct moves. The demon's eyes widen as it releases all 10 chains and turns its head back and forth to see us closing in on it from both sides. However, these aren't eyes filled with fear. Instead, they're surprise and joy. It focuses on the pillar of stone behind us where the temple once stood, then yells out loud while grabbing more soul weapons from above its head. So you two are the ones all these carvings are about. Odd, because I don't sense that dragon with you. I would guess you claimed some kind of inheritance, but that can't be the case. Your vibrations haven't been altered at all, only solidified. It begins to throw glowing white, purple, black, and cyan-colored knives all through the air. Some of them morph into 2-sided blades, others into circular spinning saws, and some begin leaking massive amounts of celestial energy until they explode with immense force like one-time-use soul-powered bombs. The demon lets out a laugh as we slice through these distractions and put up shields to bounce the energy from the bombs away. Its black aura that fills the air for many kilometers all around contracts back in toward itself. Instead of acting as a natural but useless intimidation aura, the dark black mist consolidates to create many shadowy arms. Some of them continue to throw weapons our way, while others charge up larger glowing objects behind the demon's back. There is a massive black spear that charges up a demonic energy ball, and a bow that pulls back 6 arrows at once. It holds the very club that defeated us last time in one hand, and the axe that chopped off my arm in the other. All kinds of blades and strange artifacts begin to hum and buzz while it gains the high ground and waits for us to fly up toward it. Come on, tell me what you saw in there. Can't a demon trapped in this torture pit satiate his curiosity a little? Did Lucian set you up to this? No, maybe it was the new 5th family head. Has it been long enough for them to finally cultivate a new royal? If they're experimenting with humans, they must have found a new heir. From 2 of its sharp, shadowy arms, a pure cyan blade comes down toward me, and 6 bright white arrows are released from a massive bow down toward Maria. This blade isn't swung or thrown. Instead, it looks as though it's extending from its grasp, growing over 5 kilometers in distance to close the gap instantly. It's faster than the spiked balls by at least 10 times, and I don't sense any celestial energy in it. The weapon is made from pure divine threads strengthened by royal vibrations. It's an extremely strange weapon. Without fully understanding what it can do, my first instinct is to dodge. However, it follows me with this cyan blade like a laser pointer, easily moving it to follow me as though it's weightless. I swing across my body to block it and feel resistance unlike the weak warning shots it through before. An explosion of cyan threads and red flames shakes the air. I have to counter, so I release a crescent of flames through the center of the cyan blade. It cuts straight down its center and flies through the air toward the demon, obliterating the cyan sword and slicing off the shadowy arm holding it. I was aiming to curve this attack into the demon's real body, but it shifted its position in space the moment I made my counter. It wasn't a last-moment decision. I have a feeling it could have even saved its shadow arm if it wanted. The feeling of cyan residue tingling on my blade and right arm afterward, until I let my corruption devour it, confirms if that cyan blade actually hit me, it would have caused some damage. I watch Maria create a frozen domain around her to deal with the white arrows, and they don't act the same as the spiked balls that instantly froze. Instead, they only slow down and only begin freezing completely once they're less than 20 meters from her. She slashes through each one with her blade while flying in closer. The demon's excited and curious smile does not change, so I decide to play its game and yell back to see if I can get any valuable information out of this demon. We may be on the same side here after all. You're wrong. Lucian Morvale didn't create us in some kind of experiment, but you are right about one thing. There was a 5th family head chosen. Do you want to hear what he was like? Chapter 909. The demon's expression shifts, and it hesitates for a fraction of a second, processing my words before launching an X-shaped wave of bright purple energy from a thick, curved blade at me, and 4 cyan-colored harpoons from a strange circular weapon at Maria. Oh, so that liar Lucian actually did pick someone after all? He wasn't just playing with our lives for the fun of it. I swing upward, and my blade collides with the center of this incoming energy attack. It ripples with crimson flames and bursts into harmless celestial residue as I burst forward, spinning and dodging through weaker flying daggers and small energy attacks sent afterward. Yes, he did. In fact, I killed him. How do you think we made it past the green zone? Loud cracking sounds echo through the air as the spears sent toward Maria freeze and shatter. She sends a dense crescent of ice in the demon's direction next to go on the offensive. The demon's eyes widen as it senses danger and twists its body away from the sparkling wave of ice. Still, 2 of its shadow arms are lost. One of its sole weapons freezes to dust, while it manages to move the other out of danger in time. It doesn't seem worried, more interested in what I've said. The royal's eyes turn from surprise to a calculative state, then to one of understanding. That makes sense. You must have some kind of assimilation skill. That's how you were able to steal all these demons' strength on your way to the temple. I'm the one shocked at its words next, dodging a curved sai and colored blade on a dark black chain, then swinging my sword backward to counter it when it turns midair to try and catch me off guard. It bounces off but shows red cracks in its blade's face. When it curves back in to attack me again, I shatter it to pieces and send a pulse of corruption down its black chains. The demon lets go of the soul weapon's remains, not wanting to be infected by the attack I just threw. Instead of sending another strike my way, it speaks again. Judging by your reaction, I'd say I'm spot on. That would explain the trace amounts of the fallen one in your soul bonds, and the scent of another royal in that darkness you carry. That dragon must have slithered its way into a family head position. And the temple's legacy, that's how you absorbed its power without having to be the chosen demon. The royal laughs out loud and throws a flurry of dense black and purple energy crescents toward Maria. Yells again. You've doomed your own race, all of the lower races, and you don't even know it. That dragon was your last chance. There's no way the vanguards will take any more chances if a family head is killed, and he hears the fallen one got this close. The lower realm will be sealed and turn into an eternal prison worse than this one. It laughs more and more, throwing the same type of dense celestial energy attacks it sent at Maria toward me. Some are mixed with white arrows and occasional pure psi and divine thread waves of light. For a moment, I get paranoid that it figured out everything about me in just a single sentence, guessing my unique skill just by watching me in the ravine. However, it seems to have convinced itself of something else that isn't true, yet I think I can use this to my advantage. The red aura around my body intensifies, even compressing in on itself to become brighter crimson. I need to get a little more serious to block this new barrage of strikes. I've come within about 2 kilometers of this demon now. As dozens of explosions burst around me, I yell again. Doesn't this make us allies? You were trapped in here by Lucian, and my aim is to get out of here and stop the sealing. Don't you think it's pointless to fight? The royal hesitates again, but twists its body out of the way to dodge another one of Maria's probing attacks after she froze and shattered the barrage sent our way. We both zigzag through the debris, closing in on a kilometer away from this demon, for him to let out a laugh. Allies? How naive you must be. There is no longer any need for allies. I have heard those words countless times before, and this is what it has gotten me. He stops sending waves of attacks my way for a moment and points to the sky with both hands toward the white rift far above us. This is an Imperial seal. Your hopes of ever seeing a family head again are long past. Enjoy the fact that you managed to kill one at all. Its aura grows sharp, and its eyes turn to my blade again. The only allies I have or will ever need again are my weapons, and I see one that will finally bring me closer to unlocking my second path. Whether you were meant to be or not, you are truly the perfect gift to entertain me in this solitude. The smirk leaves its face, as it feels like he's about to get serious. Fine. At least we tried. I hold both hands tight on the grip of my blade, and the hot crimson mist trailing around me compresses even more, allowing me to use it to increase my attack power and movement speed, rather than just a domain of defense. Maria's eyes tighten too, focusing on the demon's vitals and calculating all the attack patterns of the weapons pointed at her form on that side of the demon's body. We swing our blades in unison. The 2 crescents of fire and ice are tens of times more deadly than any warning shots before. I can feel the millions of layered waves of vibrations in this attack from my sword collide with the spiked club in the demon's real hand. It is the very one that one-shot both of us at once, putting us in a coma for over a decade just from making contact with it. The royal demon's aura has been compressed too and concentrated in its weapons, yet I'm certain it wasn't expecting anything like this. Dense black waves of celestial energy flow out from its arms and cover the 2 strongest defensive soul weapons it's holding. On Maria's side, it's a massive purple axe. There is a shockwave of red fire and blue ice as our true royal auras collide. The shockwave makes all of its shadow arms dissolve so that the demon can focus on defense with its true weapons. The sound of a murderous yell, one that has been held in for millions of years, comes echoing out into the ravine. With both arms outstretched, it does manage to hold the slashes back for a moment. However, the club starts to show miniature red fractures all over the contact point. Maria's ice begins flooding into the dark layer over its purple axe as well. Slowly, it spreads to the entire axe face and down its handle. Maria and I converge in toward the demon's center, where it's wide open now. At less than 500 meters away, we both swing again to release a perfect X mark of fire and ice toward its chest. Just before impact, the demon's club and axe shatter to pieces. They explode, making the weapon shrapnel and celestial energy residue slam into the demon's sides. Some are blocked by its armor, but its exposed skin is torn through, creating hundreds of tiny wounds. Still, the demon kicks off the air backward to give itself an extra moment to grab a black and white cube from its remaining weapons that float above its head. I am the master of all soul weapons, a royal demon meant for the throne. Do you think I'd ever let humans strike me down? The box glows brighter and brighter white in his hands and expands to lock onto both of his forearms. It grows into a massive rectangular shield, and the 2 crescents of energy explode on contact, returning to a harmless, dazzling state in the air. The shield is blinding white and hot in my senses, like its celestial energy purity is far greater than mine or even the demon wielding it. It is spotless without a dent or scratch on it, but the shockwave has sent this demon flying backward. My enhanced eyes see burn marks on its left arm, all the way up to the shoulder, and veins of blue ice still creeping up its right from the residue of the attacks we managed to hit. It's not invincible, but its arsenal of weapons are unpredictable. For some reason, it is still confident, showing no fear. If anything, its deep purple eyes grow even sharper. We both take steps forward again to follow it after being blown backward. However, I sense the air pressure start to shift, as though there is something else here watching. My instincts tell me what I'm feeling is impossible. Dragons don't awaken paths. At least the thousands of noble demons we fought before, their dragons did not carry vibrations like their bonded partners. Yet, I sense a fluctuation far off in the ravine where this demon has been sent flying. Somehow, they're the vibrations of a royal dragon. Chapter 9-10. Even as another pair of deep purple-colored reptilian eyes appear far off in the ravine, the royal vibrations that ripple off this creature don't logically add up in my mind. From the thousands of dragons I've slain, and the knowledge I have from the intricate soul bond one share with Ember, something is telling me what I'm seeing is a trick. Dragons cannot awaken paths, at least not in this way. I'm certain of it. Yet, all of my enhanced senses show the silhouette of an enormous dragon, easily 25 kilometers from wingtips, and its aura is just as domineering as the demon that is bonded with it. Even though it doesn't make sense, Maria and I step forward, our own auras growing in luminosity. Both of us are still growing fully accustomed to this new surge in power, so with every moment that passes, we grow even more confident and in tune with the vibrations rippling out from our souls. The dark ravine behind us is stained with red and blue light. My eyes track back and forth from the emerging dragon to the demon, because the shield it used to block our attacks bends and morphs to cover its entire upper body with a semi-translucent barrier of pure celestial energy. It is a reinforced armor piece covering its vital cores, and I even watch waves of white energy ripple through its dark black body. They surge into its muscles and veins, and the red fiery scars and frozen skin on its arms begin to heal, halting the wounds from spreading further. I kick off the air and focus on a new weak point, the demon's neck, while I feel Maria's gaze look toward its lower abdomen where the white armor ends. We burst out to separate sides, curving and spiraling through the darkness again. We're moving so fast that new pathways in the ravine below start to show up. Ones I only recognize from those two high nobles' memories and not my own. Several fire and ice slashes fly through the void at our enemy. However, at this distance, he still has enough time to twist out of the way to dodge. The demon pulls out a single long and curved blade from his arsenal. It's longer than its own wingspan and has sharp-toothed ridges all over the outside edge. At first, it is only pitch black in his grasp, but when he holds it with two hands, it glows with the same deep purple hue his eyes do. Soon after, waves of the white energy from his armor start flooding into the sword. Its core turns white, as the two soul artifacts link their celestial energy flows. Instead of dodging the last few ice and fire crescents that curve back around, he blocks with his massive sword. They explode in the air just as they did when they hit his shield the first time. However, he had to turn about to block these strikes and was not sent flying backward any further. We're closing in on this demon again. Any last words? It yells out at me with a growing grin on its face while its blade and armor glow brighter and brighter. I don't change my flight path, but I do realize something strange in this moment. The two pieces of soul artifacts resonate with their own unique royal vibrations. They are very similar to this demon's, but they have their own hum and specific wavelengths. They are all connected by a barely noticeable strand of invisible energy, like a mutated wavelength of royal vibrations. The instant I feel this, I feel my own bond to my sword, and much weaker ones to all of the soul armor sets covering my body. Something clicks as I shift my gaze past the demon again and see its dragon's full body emerge into the light of all our auras. Its eyes that I witnessed from afar are the only thing natural about it. One of its front legs glows bright white, while one of its hind legs is pure cyan threads. Massive streaks and patches make up its wings, powering each flap forward, leaving trails of infused celestial energy and the mutated vibrations of its bonded royal demon. Its whole tail, from its base down to the point, flickers with light purple sparkles, crackling with lightning. Even the top of its head, where its neutral horns should be, one is bright white while the other is gray. Its entire underbelly is stitched together with armored plates, covering its vitals and pulsing into its muscles and bloodstream. The bulging veins of this true dragon's body look like they are stressed to the limits. There are only tiny patches of real deep purple scales that match its eyes. I feel like I'm witnessing a dragon cyborg. It is like a half-soul weapon, half-dragon flapping its wings and coming toward us. It is enormous and bends space with far more intensity than a dragon should. They are usually this demon's weak points, but this one is certainly on par with its bonded partner. There is rage and pain in its eyes, as it looks like it's been a product of this demon's experiments for an eternity down in this ravine. I open my mouth to reply to the demon's taunt, but Maria yells out first. Last words? We should be the ones asking you that. It's clear you've made up your mind to never leave this ravine. So we'll make things easy and put you out of your misery. She's made eye contact with that dragon as well, to see the pain I did, and steps off the air to veer her path upward toward it. No words need to be spoken between us. We just fly in to finish the job. The demon lets out a laugh that echoes through the air. Fighting me together was the only chance you had. Splitting up has sealed your fate. If you come across this story on Amazon, be aware that it has been stolen from Royal Road. Please report it. The demon's toothed blade comes swinging across its body to release a bright white crescent of celestial energy with the combined vibrations of this demon and its two strongest soul weapons. Its own black aura reverberates throughout the slash, making space bend and threaten to crack around its edges. I dip down, and Maria takes another step upward through the air. The demon's attack misses, and I get in close enough to make an attack of my own. I've compressed all of my aura into my legs and my sword, pushing myself forward in a blur of crimson. Instead of a weakened long-range attack, I want to make contact blade to skin. I fly in toward its neck with no fear at all in my eyes, and certainty flowing through my strike. The royal steps backward through the air and swings upward with speed enhanced by white bursts of light coming out of his arm. Less than 20 meters away from its neck, my blade is caught between two spiked teeth in its blade. I stare past our swords, looking into the dark purple eyes of this demon. His pupils alone are larger than my head. Yet, the weight of our vibrations completely distorts the perception of the battlefield. In the depths of our minds, it is as though two equal forces are colliding with each other, like hands interlocked in a contest of pure strength, wrestling for dominance. The shockwave of a white and gray light pulsing against a dark crimson aura rips through the ravine for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Over 100 pedestals, and tens of thousands of demons die instantly from the overwhelming mental blast. At the same time, an ear-piercing screech, filled with a guttural pain, like it's releasing the stress from millions of years of torture, comes out from the dragon above. The purple lightning crackling in its tail surges through its whole body, becoming infected by all kinds of patchwork soul weapons, changing its wavelength and adding strange variations to the elemental flow. Once the wave of electricity makes it to the monstrous beast's eyes, its whole body lights up and sends hundreds of bolts of royal-grade lightning down at Maria. Some are pure white, others are dark black, some purple like its tail, and a few even resemble the natural dark demonic purple coloring from its eyes. The most deadly of all of them is the largest one coming straight out of the dragon's mouth, made of pure cyan threads and the royal demon's infused will. Maria doesn't flinch. She only tracks the bolts of lightning coming down at her from all angles and takes a deep breath in and out while activating pseudocores within her new royal form. At first, it is just one in the center of her being, but it starts to spiral outward to create a second, then a third, then 5 and 8 and 13. Each core is invisible, all layered within her body, stretching and stacking in directions impossible to comprehend in this three-dimensional universe. It is like they are infinitely small but infinitely large at the same time. impossible to pinpoint their centers, but acting as though each core covers every centimeter of her body. The cores stack further as this invisible spiral within her body grows, making 21, then 34 and 55. 5 more rotations pass, and the number of pseudocores pouring out energy from her body multiplies to 610. It's clear they could continue stacking, possibly forever, but Maria grins and halts her concentration here, allowing all of these cores to contract and expand at once. A royal blue glow pulses out from her body just as all of the lightning bolts are less than 100 meters away from colliding with her. The impossible looks like it is happening. The bolts of pure energy stop moving. In fact, when the waves of blue light hit them, the jagged, surging energy freezes. A dense layer of ice, sparkling with source resin, covers every bolt of lightning and starts to surge upward toward its sender. Maria swings her blade to send a massive crescent of pure celestial ice upward at the largest bolt made of pure cyan threads. At the same time, as I'm interlocked blade to blade with the demon, our vibrations clash, and we have a pure battle of wills. He gets to feel the certainty in my blade and my newfound resolve in the fact that I am the rising emperor, and there is nothing that can sway me from my path. I've left no secrets unturned in this moment, and I will strike to kill the moment I have the chance. I will do it over and over again like I have in the past every time before. I will kill every demon in my way. A fledgling, lesser, greater, arch, lord, noble, or even a royal family head. It doesn't matter. I will always win. This will is pitted against a demon who has spent its life killing weaklings in the ravine. He has collected all of the best soul weapons and killed the strongest of thousands of generations of nobles, high nobles, and, from what I feel in its will now, there were even royal candidates long ago that faced him. He is the king of this ravine. Nothing can touch him. Nothing ever has. He is the true royal of this prison. Yet that is the weakness I sense. It reminds me of what he said to me and Maria before hitting us with his club and sending us down into the temple. He said that we would never sync up our vibrations if we kept secrets from each other. He even mentioned that my soul bonds and paths were twisted up and not properly resonating. Now, as my heart and soul are certain and calm, I understand exactly what he meant. I yell out loud straight in this ancient royal's face. You know what? Lucian was right to leave you here. You would never make it as a true royal in the upper realm. Your soul is filled with far too many doubts. How can you call yourself a true royal if you have accepted your fate in a prison made by another mortal being? I laugh out loud, watching the crack deep in his soul become wider. It's a strange sight, as though I'm physically watching the demon's confidence and source of its power waver. You say you're the master of soul weapons? Yet one of mine, the blade of a so-called lesser race, managed to destroy half your arsenal with ease? You are nothing but an overgrown fish in a tiny pond. You're the master of nothing, a collector of trash and trinkets, reliant on the leftover powerful artifacts of others to fight me, yet you don't even know how most of them got here. Only their true wielders could ever understand them fully and allow them to merge with their path. You are just an old demon from a generation that should either be in a high zone or long dead. Its vibrations waver even more, and it yells back. You know nothing. The Imperials divided the upper realm this way, and Lucian, I'll take that amplifier and show the demons I'm the royal that has conquered all soul weapons I dash. You've gone senile. To even think you could take this blade from me. You are sadly mistaken. Even your predictions of how I arrived here from the lower realm are wrong. I didn't kill the fallen one. I bonded with him. Your chance to leave this place and conquer the great families has sadly passed. I think it's time for your eternal rest. I make the celestial fire and corruption covering my face twist into a wide demonic smile as the crack in this demon's soul shatters and opens wide. At the same time, I release the wave of compressed crimson aura out from my body, and it expands far enough to cover the whole upper half of this royal demon's body. I focus and activate the sensation I feel while using Shadow Step, Dungeon Walker, and even the instant teleport swap feature of my body double skill. I do not have access to the system still, but I'm able to replicate its features due to my celestial grade perks. My figure disappears before the demon's wide eyes. It clumsily follows through with its blades strike forward, but I have already sent my own attack flying at the back of its neck. A burst of blue and red energy lights up the ravine for over 1,000,000 kilometers in every direction. I slice off this royal demon's head while it is still in shock, then plunge my blade into what is left of its throat to release a wave of celestial fire and corruption of catastrophic scale. The bright white armor that protects its vitals from the outside does more harm than good. Instead of protecting from attacks coming in, it works as an insulator, allowing me to cook and corrode this demon's insides before it knows it's even dead. The core in its chest cracks under the pressure and explodes to bits. Its eyes, filled with horror, watch its own body burst into fiery pieces as it tries to comprehend what has happened. Above, Maria follows through with her strike and does another unfathomable feat, slicing the cyan lightning bolt in half while flying up in the air through it. Her blade makes contact with the nose of the dragon and slices it clean through the eyes. Instead of rage, the dragon looks relieved and thankful. All of the other hundreds of lightning bolts that were released from its body carry waves of royal blue ice into its bloodstream, and its wings are frozen mid-flight. After its head is sliced in two, the half-monster, half-soul weapon amalgamation shatters to sparkling snow falling down to shower the fireball below. Chapter 9:11. Extremely strong surges of power flow from this demon's cores through my sword and into my body and soul. Pure white celestial energy flows into the bright red fire in my soul energy core and strengthens my flames. It is like a violent eruption of a volcano finally being contained by pathways secure enough to contain the molten lava flow. There is dark purple demonic essence that is torn out of this demon's core and siphoned from its dark black aura. This is devoured by the coiling corruption that flows through my being. Even the raw royal vibrations that have been unraveled and terrorized, shattered into digestible parts formed from my mental attacks, are completely dominated, assimilated, altered, and absorbed into my will. There is a sparkling mist of celestial energy trapped in blue ice falling from the sky. Every bit of it that touches the growing crimson domain around me flows into my being as well. Fragments of the soul weapons stitched together on the dragon in the sky begin to flow through me and settle in my sword. The bright white armor and sword that were last wielded by this demon turn to liquid energy on contact and flow directly into it as well. The explosion of this demon's body has sent many of its soul weapons flying through the air, but the strong sensation of hunger builds up in my fiery blade, locking my senses onto every one of them. The surge of power it gains from just one of these soul weapons is hundreds of times greater than the entire collection of first and noble grade weapons I've been feeding it to satiate its hunger throughout the ravine. A flash of crimson zigzagging light fills the sky as I chase down the strongest weapons. They all strengthen my blade in unique ways. Some increase its durability, others its raw power, some its sharpness, and a few directly affect the way it reacts with reality. Especially the pure cyan weapons, they make its gravity more powerful, making heavier dents in space while others tighten its vibrations to solidify this sensation even deeper. This is only halfway through the devouring process. I can feel the structure and raw power of the sword shifting. It is a process that only happens when it levels up. I have no access to the system to tell if this is what is happening. However, I can instinctually sense that I can't reveal its full form until I release mine. There is so much power trapped within this demon and dragon that it feels like it should have been a tougher fight. Just as I let my blade devour the last of the soul weapons, a wave of memories floods into my consciousness explaining why this feeling is true. They're crisp, like I'm living through its eyes. Unlike all of the other demons in this ravine, its mind has managed to hold together without many fractured or splintered portions of the past. Its earlier years are unremarkable, similar to the upbringing of the two high nobles I fought before, actually. Yet, from the strength of the elite worlds it was conquering, and the abundance of nobles and high nobles in the demonic realm at the time, I'm certain this demon's experience in the lower realm was millions of years before the arrival of any demon I've killed in the ravine so far. In its early years, lasting about 50,000 in total in the lower realm, after it passed all of its trials and tests to ascend, I witnessed an even more diverse and flourishing green zone. The family head, Lucian Morvale, was there to greet this ancient demon on a private citadel the day he arrived. He and thousands of other high nobles were trained in the fortress, and even sparred with the elite wyverns, scarlet berserkers, and a mammoth clan that was exceptionally strong during the 20,000 years or so he remained in the Green Zone. He ascends through the Grand Citadel with the watchful eye of a familiar white wyvern, and Lucian is in the center of their group meant to ascend. During the transition, while in a bright void of pure white celestial energy, their family head pulls out a purple and white device and gives them a speech about passing a final test. The familiar scene I saw with the two high nobles plays all over again in my mind, but this must be the first time the family head did it. Out of the thousands of high noble demons ascending next to their dragons, Lucian only flicks his finger upward on a few hundred. The rest, he points down, to send them into the Imperial's forgotten prison, the Ravine. Taken from Royal Road, this narrative should be reported if found on Amazon. The first of you to make it out and pass this trial, I will grant you the Green Zone. You will become the fifth and final family head. These are the last words this demon hears before being plunged into darkness. I witness a never-ending slaughter. Even combining every memory from every enemy I've ever killed, it does not compare to the endless battles this monster has been through. At first, he does not question this trial, as it must be like all the others he faced in the zones below. The demon used to wield a pair of black throwing knives as his only sole weapon. They would complement his dark mist and shadow step skills so well that he could make them duplicate and teleport to defeat anything that moved in a one-on-one fight. However, in his generation there were many talents like this too. High nobles all were masters in their domains throughout the galaxy. He followed the pedestals blindly, sensing pulsing white lights and slowly coming across the temple just like many other demons. This is where the strongest always ended up, so he made it his home to challenge stragglers left behind he couldn't kill. Every few thousand years after his arrival, there would be even more demons dumped into the ravine. At first, only nobles and high nobles, but eventually Lucian began experimenting. He would send fledglings, commoners, third through first class, everything and anything into the darkness to see what would happen. This dagger-wielding demon already killed his entire class within the first years in the ravine, and with every passing generation, the challengers sent down here only became weaker and weaker. Every 100,000 years or so, there would be a genius or mutation that showed up, and he would finally have a stimulating fight. These are the drops he would look forward to. Over and over again, as over 1,000,000 years passed by, he grew strong enough to never even receive a scratch from the strongest of high nobles on the brink of breaking through. It built his mind, body, and soul up strong enough to comprehend his purpose. He realized that he must become the undisputed strongest champion of this ravine. He awakened a royal path extremely slowly, by never losing a battle. Another few million years passed as he slowly developed this mind, the one he full-heartedly believed that Lucian wanted him to achieve. Every time more demons would fall into the ravine, the rift above would fluctuate, and he would look up to thank his family head for trusting him to awaken this power. Some of the demons dropped down in this era were tests done by Lucian in the lower realm, of faulty royals with half-awakened paths. They are still unfathomably stronger than any high noble, and this only built up this nameless demon's confidence further. However, after a while, his progress stalled. The demons sent down only got weaker, to the point where he was lucky if even a dozen high nobles came to challenge him every 10,000 years. With his skills so honed, this royal could sweep the whole ravine for enemies in a matter of days, and kill them all with his aura alone. While at first it was exhilarating to be the strongest, millions of years passed by again, and I watched this demon unravel into insanity. This path starts to decay, as doubt creeps into its mind. It witnesses the fall in strength of demons as the generations pass, to the point where only a handful of nobles even get thrown down here if he's lucky. His skills regress and he comes to realize he's been tricked and used as a prison warden, exterminating the weak failures that couldn't ascend for a family head that threw him away just like all the others. I watch 1,000,000 years go by where he slams his daggers against the rift above the ravine and tries everything in his power to escape. The royal vibrations this demon held at its peak would have easily rivaled mine now. I certainly would have had to use my new form to contend with him. Yet he falls further and further into despair. With countless weak, wandering demons and the soul weapons he's been collecting from the strongest royals and high nobles of the past, His last resort is to try and create a new path. He's managed to awaken as a royal, so in his defeated and tired mind, he believes that picking a new specialty will allow him to ascend even further. For millions more years, he uses the soul weapons of demons he defeated in the past, and channels the essence from every new batch of demons that arrive to the final temple into them. He assigns nobles to the pedestals, and whenever a strong high noble would drop down every few 100,000 years, he'd appoint them as the new temple guardians to lure others his way. He began experimenting with the weapons he couldn't bond with, using their souls to merge with his dragon, to try and create a unique sentinel to ascend with him. Despite successfully soul bonding with almost 100 royal-grade weapons, this step toward insanity only led to his royal path becoming more convoluted and weakened at its core. Any true royal can defeat a monster that has strayed from its foundation. This comes true, as its final memories are of our battle and the release of its resentment toward the royal family heads for selling it a false promise of glory. As my corruption devours these emotions, and my celestial fire drains all of its past will and drive, a shock wave of pure white light ripples through my body and soared to release into the ravine. I'm positive that was the feeling my system gives me from skill upgrades or a new buff or a rank up of some sort, but I still cannot tell what it was. I let my blade fall into my soul and look upward to see Maria floating down my way. She lets her blade disappear as well, and we float down together even further to the bottom of the ravine. We hold hands again to link our celestial energy cycles, as I have an absurd amount of higher purity energy to refine with her. Our instantaneous cycling begins, and she releases the same bright white shockwaves after a few seconds. Once we touch down on the smooth stone ground, we've already cycled this energy through each other's cores a few thousand times. It's transitioned back and forth from fire to ice enough times to enhance its purity by almost double the raw power I absorbed from the demon. Yet the excitement tingling through both of us is more focused on our final prize. The head of this royal demon begins to melt into black and purple goo, just like everything else that dies down here. However, its enormous ancient spiraling horns still glow bright white with power. Royal vibrations still radiate off it, far more sturdy and concentrated than those within its cores, like they are time capsules of trapped will. Each segment of the twisted celestial bone echoes with the memories of the past I just witnessed. Chapter 9:12. There are many deep growth ridges in the glowing white bones. Different stages of its development over its millions of years in the ravine can be sensed through them. Incredibly pure and dense celestial energy flows through them as a constant, but the structure and wavelength of its royal vibrations change throughout the sections as we walk forward and examine the horns. We separate and float around the massive specimens to examine them further. They're the largest raw bone artifacts I've seen in this abyss so far, stretching over 40 meters long each. I slide my hand against the growth ridges, and it stimulates the memories I just absorbed to run through my mind all over again. I can feel every shift in this demon's will throughout its lifetime and gain an immense amount of insight on creating and harnessing a royal path. A lot of which stays internal as subconscious do's and don'ts, but by the time I'm done examining it, I have come to a vital truth. The foundation of my journey is just as important as every step closer to my goals I take now. I have been instinctively following goals directed to me by the system and the environment I've thrown myself into. Even thinking about it so deeply now, I begin to feel the most powerful soul bond vibrating with an invisible energy nearby as Maria makes discoveries of her own. Feeling the demon's horn. Becoming closer with her was a choice I made in order to strengthen and widen my path. But this opens my eyes further to the fact that there are so many more variables inside me. The separation of two powers, destruction and creation, have naturally split over many years here in the ravine, down in the green zone, and even in the lower realm. In fact, I was sent down this path unknowingly the day I became soulbound with Ember, accepting a demon core into my body. I can feel an intangible energy connecting this bond now that I sit with it and focus on that crimson-eyed dragon's face. However, for some reason, I have the instinctual feeling to look upward. I stare toward the rift in the sky, but I'm looking in a direction through the zones, feeling the sensation I felt with Maria as we split through the green zone to come here. It's not that I can see Ember in a higher zone or even sense his system or presence at all. I just know he's there. It makes me shiver, like I've just touched upon a new sense I've never felt before. I look down to relieve myself of this sensation, but instead, it only opens up new pathways connecting me with this invisible force to all of the armor on my body and the many souls captured to strengthen them. The moment this clicks, my mind expands even further, automatically connecting the dots to my blood-bonded armor and unlocking invisible sensory pathways down into the green zone and even the lower realm. For a moment, I feel connected to all of the generals, administrators, commanders, and knights again. In fact, billions of worlds worth of beings in the lower realm connect to a part of my mind for a moment, like a flash of realization before the whole connection is cut off. I feel as though I gained a connection to the system again for a moment, but without any access to its mana or numerical features. I stare down at the royal demon's horn, now lacking this overwhelming stimuli that flashed before me with a blank stare. It felt like miniature soul bonds were tethering me to every living being and artifact connected to the rising Emperor's system. I take a deep breath in and look down at my hands, then back up to turn toward Maria. She's already started floating over to me, recognizing something strange is happening. For a moment, I feel completely disconnected, like I'm having a withdrawal from the overwhelming pull of souls that flashed before my mind. However, once she comes close enough, I feel my awareness of this invisible force grow between us again. Jay, what's wrong? I'm not really sure. I answer while holding my head and floating down to the ground between the two horns, while two hands comfort me. Over the next few minutes, I tell her what I just saw and simultaneously use my celestial grade craftsmanship to infuse these horns into our largest sets of armor, our chest plates covering our vitals. The celestial energy is compressed, and the vibrations of this monster from its peak are isolated and dominated by our wills to create a protection equal to the armor that we couldn't break through during our own fight earlier. Maria's expression as I tell her about this invisible force brightens, and her eyes widen with understanding the more I go into detail about what it felt like. We float out of the ravine's bottom, up high into the dark sky toward the rift as she replies. I've felt it too. For a long time, actually. Ever since I compressed my true core back in the lower realm. She summons her crystalline soul sword, and out of reflex, I do the same to summon my flaming blade. The tether between this blade and my soul becomes vivid to my senses the moment I concentrate on it. We both let go of our blades to let them slowly orbit around us while flying upward further. I thought it was a side effect of creating my destroyer-class soul weapon, like some unique feature of bonding with raw source resin. But, after our souls bonded too, I feel like we have always been connected in this way, just not as strong. In fact, everyone and anything we interact with, being in the presence of another being with life creates a small soul bond of sorts. At least that's my theory. We float higher as I consider her words, and the darkness around us fades as the bright white light of the rift above illuminates the sky far brighter than even our red and blue auras. I think you're right. I just don't know how the system itself is intertwined in all of this. We float in silence, staring at each other and examining the soul bond with newfound insight, but eventually, the slowly swirling rift above sways our attention. I vividly remember over 1,000,000 years of the royal demon's desperate attempts at breaking out of this prison and realize force will not be a viable option to escape. Even our attempt to break through it before our full soul bond is fresh in my mind. Yet, we have to try again to make sure. We send our strongest attacks in our current forms at the white barrier above us. Some together at a single point, and others kilometers apart. We even try flying through the ravine to other portions of the rift to see if there are any weak points, but the result is exactly as I thought it would be. None of our attacks make even the slightest fluctuation in the ether flowing above. It is like we're not even here. All of the force we throw at this rift stops the moment it makes contact. No energy is even absorbed, and there is no negative backlash either. The attacks just stop. It is like unreadable ether commands are holding back our movements and not allowing certain events to take place in the reality that exists beyond the rift in the sky. I understand now completely. There is no amount of force that could ever break through this strange barrier. It is a higher quality ether base than I can comprehend. an artifact of the past created by demons that reside 2 zones above this one. In addition to this confirmation, as we float throughout the ravine, there are massive artificial holes in the dark black ground. These are all past attempts at escaping downward as well, but I have vivid memories of this royal demon's failure in that regard too. There is nothing but endless black stone that gets denser and harder the deeper down one digs. I even remember him attempting to saturate his cyan core. Many high nobles and partial royals of the past tried to attempt this too. However, something held them back from doing so. Just like the system is still suppressed, the ability to compress cyan threads past a certain density in this darkness seems to be present too. I didn't fully realize it until now, but it makes me wonder if my royal vibrations are being suppressed in ways I cannot feel or comprehend right now. Maria and I share our thoughts and theories as I describe sensations and memories from the demons, and we explore the ravine from an aerial view with full visibility rather than the blind journey we had to take through the darkness before. This time, we release waves of aura to kill every last straggling demon we see, leaving no survivors. These were all monsters loyal to Lucian Morvale at one point, so all I see them as now are enemies. After a long loop around a few thousand pedestals, finding no weak points or new ideas on how to get out, we come back to where the temple once stood and touch down on the raised pillar that shows statues of a demon and an angel both looking up to the sky, where we're both trying to go as well. I walk toward the demon, whose horns match the corruption manifestations poking out of my forehead perfectly. Maria walks toward the angel, whose wings match her sparkling source resin manifestation down to the last feather as well. Maybe we aren't done here. There still is no explanation for the extra writing in the stone. The ones that guided us here using originator text. There could still be more of this inheritance that we aren't remembering. It could be the key to getting out of here. I say with a tightened gaze, staring into the chest of this demon statue. Then, the floor beneath my feet starts to grow warm, as bits of my soul energy react with it. The 2 statues glowed with a dull red and blue hue while we were being lifted into the sky before our battle, but fell back to their black stone state when we left. Now that we return, I watch the demon begin to glow crimson again, and the statue in front of Maria begins to glow blue. Both of the statues' chests light up with that same familiar white glyph, and a low audible hum fills the air. Chapter 9:13. The 2 humans that stand before statues within a ravine fall into a semi-trance-like state. A white glyph within the chests of each of their statues begins to resonate with the millions of invisible runes layered within their bodies after receiving the temple's legacy. Neither of them can sense exactly what is happening, but the sensation feels warm, inviting, and instinctively good for them in every way. In a pocket of space outside the lower and upper realms, a dim glowing white tablet with the same glyph on its face continues to attract more and more void creepers to float around it. At its first flicker, only 100 or so gathered around it. But now, as the dim glow gets slightly brighter, many from further away in this dark realm are drawn to the energy it emits. There are thousands that arrive, all long-limbed, jet black, and expressionless, staring at the tablet emitting a natural hum. The majority of these void creepers have never seen anything like this before, but a small few of them recognize this glow from tablets in the past. A void creeper, even at this high of a rank, does not often recall memories like normal mortal beings. Instead, they only remember the sensation and result of the glows before. It always resulted in the light going out, and the feeling of failure, a dwindling loss of hope. Yet, the sensation of a new tablet glowing is the opportunity for their purpose of existence to be fulfilled. They all stop and stare down at the tablet, watching the invisible strings of energy tether it to a place outside of this realm, a place they have never been. They do not even have any understanding of what outside this realm could even be. All they know is the energy it gives off is instinctively good for them, and they must wait until it grows stronger to act. High above this void creeper's realm, staring down at the glowing tablet and its children all gathering around a dim light source, an enormous faceless void creeper watches the realm between space they rule. This being has long limbs and a rounded humanoid head. At least that is what they would look like if they had any visible form. It only exists as a gravity field, existing at the outer edges of this pocket in space, dictating its rules and making sure that no one ever leaves or enters uninvited. It has done so for eternity, and remembers every action anything and everything has ever made in this place. The billions of tablets that have reacted countless times. While there is a chronological order to the origin plane they are connected to, in this spacetime is not that simple. This being is only viewing the events before it with the concept of time in its presence because that is what the invisible threads of energy tethering it to reality need most right now to progress with its legacy. The entity zooms in on the glowing tablet and examines all of these invisible pulls stimulating its legacy trials left behind within this isolated system. It starts at the lowest potency resonating soul ties, known as the lower realm to the beings living here. Instead of taking in the information that is a moment in time in the present, it scans every moment in time the system connected to this galaxy has ever recorded. Images of the lower-ranked void creepers from a slower frequency of space are the first visuals it sees. There are many void creeper lords that lurk in the lower realm, sitting atop thrones and creating miniature tiers in space where the system has already weakened the divide. They send in children of their own to absorb mana inside artificial realms many life forms call dungeons. This entity receives billions of years' worth of information and instantly understands why its children have stopped extracting resources from this system over time. It also finds that only one of its legacy tombs was found, and it was one that they planted with the help of a Supreme before its last mental reset. If you stumble upon this tale on Amazon, it's taken without the author's consent. Report it. The invisible void creeper scans the history of the upper realm next, and the result of what it sees makes the entire realm between space shiver. There is no true direction or stability in this void of thought, so the void creepers staring down at the tablet do not feel a thing. They only distort and twist in the vision of their mother as it fully digests and understands everything that has happened in this system so far. It feels a sense of loss and sorrow, but it is followed by a sense of deep love and hope. The entity siphons large amounts of the energy that has been collected from this lower realm and creates a unique child, mimicking the powers of what it has witnessed. A dark void creeper begins to materialize into reality, and the mother grows tired. This invisible entity falls back into its sleeping state to conserve the energy it has left, waiting for the tablet to glow brighter once more of its legacy is fulfilled. The void creeper left behind reaches forward and tears through space to fulfill its mission. Maria and I both watch in awe as the statues before us glow brighter and brighter with red and blue light. The white glyphs start to slowly pulse, and ripples of white energy flow out of their chests. It flows through the floor I stand on, and even down through the massive black pillar that towers over the entire ravine. The odd thing is, it is only my eyes that can see these white pulses of light. None of my senses can pick up a thing from them. I turn around and meet Maria's gaze. Neither of us understand what is happening, but we do recognize this as high-quality ether, the same substance that the rift that is trapping us in this ravine is made of. It flows so smoothly, and with a mysterious air to it. It flows right by my feet. It is touching my soul but not being absorbed. It is so pure. It is almost an unbelievable feeling. Unlike the rift, there is no protective barrier blocking it from my examination. Yet, the deeper I look into it, the more of the same I see. It is just pure white ether, compacted so tight I can't make sense of any of the readings I get back. Except for one. It is the invisible soul bond tethering that I experienced for the first time after our fight with a royal. I can feel the sensation growing the longer I examine this ether, then feel the bond tethering to myself, Maria, and the two statues beside us. It's impossible for me to actually absorb this ether into my body, but its presence in such abundance and purity puts my mind into a calm state. I can focus so much easier and see reality around me with so much greater depth. Even the royal vibrations within my soul start to resonate with more clarity and purpose. I feel like I'm slowly approaching an enlightened state, but I don't know what it is I'm learning. It just feels like the ability to understand concepts themselves is being expanded. The high-quality ether does not stop flowing out of these glyphs. It only gets faster. It saturates the entire pillar of stone we stand on and makes the cores of these two stone statues glow bright white. Their outsides are still coated in our red and blue celestial energy. We've had all the time necessary to run to safety, but I can't bring myself to do it. The invisible soul bonds keep my feet planted in place, and the same goes for the blue angel across from me on this raised platform. My instincts begin to scream that if I move or disrupt the process now, I'd be putting myself in far more danger. The high-quality ether starts to fill the air. However, it does not drift past the sides of the pillar. It acts as though there is an invisible barrier at its edges, so the only direction this energy can travel is up. A long rectangular pillar flows up high into the sky until it touches the rift high above us. The white mist of ether fills the darkness and illuminates the ravine for millions of kilometers. Instead of looking up, we both look to our sides. At the far side of this flat platform, more invisible soul bonds begin to materialize into thin air. My heightened state of consciousness makes it so easy to see them and understand that they are not entirely new soul bonds. I am just seeing them for the first time now. Even as space itself begins to fluctuate in front of us, it feels as though this is normal and completely expected after witnessing so many soul bonds spawn out of nowhere. The thought of why or how they have appeared doesn't cross my mind as a necessary variable. It is a result of falling into such a deep trance. A long tear in space opens slowly, and a familiar sight walks out. It has long limbs, a dark black body over 100 meters tall, and a consistent low hum to its presence that can only be that of a void creeper. It is a perfect image of the beings we've been seeing carvings of all over the walls within this ravine. However, it is slightly larger than others I've seen before, and it does not seem to be as mindless as the ones I've come across in the lower realm. It stops after a single step forward and lets the rift close behind us. Another abnormality that tells me this is no void creeper like the ones I've seen before is that they usually have a blank face, with nothing but darkness where it should be. Instead, there is a 5-faced clock in the center of its head. The clock's base glows silver, and the faces of each clock that spin at different speeds are yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Chapter 9:14. I can't move. My mind is processing the images before me, but it feels like time has slowed to a stop, at least to my body and certain physical aspects of my soul. My active mind in this hyper-focused, yet calming enlightened state is completely conscious. I can feel Maria's mind and parts of her soul taking in the scene before us too, as though we're the only observers of this strange new reality. Red celestial fire still flows out from my feet into the floor to fill the statue. Once it hits its maximum luminosity, the extra celestial energy fills out the floor below me. However, it only flows down a few centimeters. I watch it flow outward and stain half of the ground red, while Maria's icy blue energy collides with it at the center. Instead of clashing, the two energies mix as though they are the same, creating pathways of least resistance through each other's auras to flow up through our feet and into our soul energy cores. Even the statues behind us begin to absorb the other's energy and cycle it back out as refined and more pure. This becomes an intuitive process as the massive white pillar below is packed with high-quality ether, and even looks as though it's becoming even more dense with it than the rift above us. The white glow from it stretches out further and further into the ravine. At first only 1,000,000 kilometers, but as time seems to pass, the bright glow lights up every single deep valley and cave throughout this dark prison. I cannot see it with my own senses, but there is a strange resonance beneath my feet that shows me every little detail of the zone outside. There are millions of demons and dragons, commoners to nobles, all turning our way no matter where they are in the ravine. All of a sudden, they are able to see and obtain a sense of direction. They're drawn toward the light that has given them sight. On top of this pillar, the invisible walls that connect it to the rift above become more and more saturated with floating particles of high-quality ether, making it glow just as bright white as the solid mass of stone below us. Even though the air is thick, I can sense everything in it with perfect clarity. The void creeper stands with one of its long legs stood in each of our celestial energy pools. It flows right through the dark black energy like it is not even there. It is almost like a hologram, but I'm certain it's real. It only looks this way because my mind cannot comprehend what this being is hiding. It is the same sensation I felt while trying to look into the center of Maria's soul energy core in the past. There is a secret of the universe within, and it's hiding its ability to be seen with an energy I can't even sense. Despite its real bodily makeup being hidden, I can tell it's extremely densely packed with raw mana by the aura's natural residue alone. That is all I thought a Void Creeper was. Pure mana. Ember never elaborated much in the past, only calling them creatures that live between space and drained dungeons of their mana. Yet, I do remember him also stating that the so-called titans we faced back on the Human World's dungeons were the lowest-ranked Void Creepers, and there are others much stronger. I never ran into any more in labyrinths, nor have I even found any sign of them in other worlds once my Rising Emperor system connected to them. However, now, I'm certain whatever this entity is that has torn through space during our Legacy Ritual's activation is one of those higher-ranked Void Creepers. Not only is the sheer amount of pure mana coming off its being as pure aura residue absurd, but it gives off other readings of divine energy and ether. I can't sense any individual threads, nor any cores in its body. The only tells I have are the fact that the 5-face clock is being powered by its own internal energy. There are yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple threads all tethering this mechanism to reality from deep within this Void Creeper. I even sense the presence of silver threads holding it together, high-quality ether allowing it to exist within this legacy construct, but not interfere with its ongoing ether commands. Not only that, but the growing invisible soul bonds tether both Maria and myself to the statues and this Void Creeper within this enclosed space. I cannot tell what senses are being activated. It is like my intuition has been lifted to an astronomical degree beyond my energy capabilities. Everything that happens before me makes total sense, yet I have no idea why. Time is passing outside this pillar of light. I can tell by the speed at which demons and dragons are flying toward us. We all stand completely still, and to my bodily functions and age of my soul, it feels as though mere seconds have passed. But I can see some of the commoner demons traveling hundreds of kilometers. Days pass on the outside. As soon as I notice this fact, I feel the increase in my celestial energy purity and an even deeper soul bond with Maria. The invisible tie between us has grown heavier and stronger somehow. The Void Creeper only stands with its long limbs by its sides, and the clock faces all spinning at different speeds facing forward. I zone out again as the calming waves of high-quality ether flow through my senses. Months pass. I can tell because some of the nobles and even lower-class demons have finally made it to the White Pillar. Maria and I killed everything within 1,000,000 kilometers or so with our auras alone when we went out to explore after killing that royal. The moment I realize that time has gone by, I feel our celestial energy become even more pure. The soul bond is deepening so much that even my royal vibrations are starting to alter. It triggers a memory of the peak of that ancient royal's vibrations when it still believed it was the ruler of the ravine, and I tap into this confidence myself to make full use of this moment of enlightenment. Unlike the demon, we've actually found the secrets to this temple, and can become far more than it ever did. I conceptualize its peak of strength of royal vibrations, and surpass it instantly, progressing in seconds what it achieved in millions of years, then fall back into a trance. Years begin to pass by. More and more demons emerge from the ravine, drawn toward the pillar of light, and become blinded by its glory once they get too close. They become true mindless demons and dragons, and charge into the pillar's base from all sides, coming from every corner of the ravine. The high-quality ether form below filters the mass and celestial energy donated by these tributes, and carries it up the tower. It is borderline low-quality ether near the bottom, but is refined, compact, and churned into pure white medium-quality ether by the time it hits the center of the pillar where we stand. It perfectly matches the purity of celestial energy we are currently processing, and is added to our flowing pool. There are even streams of pure cyan threads, and dark demonic essence being siphoned through the pillar up toward us. Maria's body drains more of the divine threads than I do, and my corruption devours every last drop of the demonic essence. This is certainly not a coincidence. There are far too many complex high-quality ether commands syncing this process perfectly for our minds to comprehend. By the time I take a mental breath again, it's been over a decade according to my intuition, and progress on my celestial energy pool. I realize I've felt this sensation before. It was inside the Demon Lord's throne trials back on the human world. There was a portion of the mental tests where Ember and I had to withstand isolation within a simulated abyss. The more I process this sensation, it feels quite similar. My body and soul are not aging. Even my mind is managing to block out the true passage of time. It is like the main processor in our brains are frozen, while energy continues to cycle. Just like when I was in that trial, and my mind withstood hundreds of thousands of years of isolation by simply turning itself off. At this thought, over 100 years slip by around us. Millions of demons and dragons disappear into the hot white pillar in the void, and when I come to conscious thought for a moment this time, I get the sense of satiety that rushes through my being. I feel like I've just eaten a massive meal, like all three of my cores are becoming satisfied, and pushing the limits of what is possible in this Cyan zone. My corruption has become sharper and more fluid, and my celestial fire burns so hot and pure that it is unrecognizable to the dim red flames I wielded before. Most noticeable of all, my Cyan core feels like it is close to saturation. I lose consciousness of final time, and over 850 more years pass in the blink of an eye. This time, I feel as though I've been jolted out from my slumber, rather than a calm and peaceful drift in and out of consciousness. The ravine around us has gone silent and empty. Every single demon that could see this pillar has sacrificed itself into it like a helpless moth to a flame. The feeling of satiation from before has long passed. Now I feel hot all over. My body is constantly breaking itself apart, but my celestial fire is strong enough to heal me. Even my cores are all pushing outward and making my head ache and energy pathways burn with tight, uncomfortable pressure. A low, ringing sound pierces into my ears. I haven't felt this since the green zone, when I was creating seals to hold back my power from the outside zone. Now, it is the limits of my body and mind fighting against some ancient seal placed in this ravine. Across from me, I'm watching Maria activate many of her pseudocores, glowing bright blue in order to withstand this new power too. The high-quality ether in the air is still keeping us in a near-hypnotic state, but it is slowly fading away and letting me focus on reality again. What I witness on the horizon makes my eyes widen, as the visual of a realm wave passing us by reveals what broke us out of such a trance. My next discovery is the fact that all of the 5 faces on the Void Creeper clocks have stopped spinning at different speeds. They now all match at a constant rate. The celestial energy in the statues and floor seeps backward, back through our feet into our bodies, and the Void Creeper moves for the first time again in nearly 1,000 years. It tilts its head upward, and the hum around its body intensifies. The clocks on its face all vibrate with a silver static light, and a rectangular door in space opens above us. When the yellow clock glows, I see a dark black starry night through the door, and immediately feel countless soul ties triggering in my subconscious to the lower realm. Then, the green clock glows, and as though a slideshow is switching images, the rectangular door now only shows green clouds. The Void Creeper doesn't stop to let us enjoy the view at all. It just continues its cycle like a machine, following out a task. The cyan-colored clock glows, and the rift's internal mechanisms rotate to the next zone, showing a bright white sky and a city of cyan towers, with a massive palace at its back. I see this as our way out. This is the same exact palace I've seen in Muriel's memories behind Lucian. Yet, as my eyes widen and I notice this, the Void Creeper activates its dark blue clock face. Chapter 9:15. There are no updates from the Rising Emperor in the lower realm. After being appointed as administrators, Pluto, Bree, and Alvaron have taken control of the mana-based forces and begun a galactic expansion to take back stolen worlds from the demons and make many solar systems whole and safe again. Almost all of the Morvale's private armies have been targeted and exterminated by the commanders. The Knights have partnered with many of the newer elite worlds connecting to the worldwide connectivity system, as well as clusters of first- and second-class forces that can fight on par with weaker demons, mainly the Vermilion family's lingering armies. Pluto continuously leaks information about their whereabouts until he alone is left in the Vermilion family's castle in the demonic realm. Over 3 full years pass between realm waves, and the number of planets connected to the system has grown by a considerable amount. Massive amounts of raw resources left over on abandoned worlds after the demons siphoned all they could before ascending are being allocated to 4th and 5th class worlds in order to raise their average strength and allow them to participate on par with the higher-grade civilizations. As more time passes, the knights and commanders grow stronger. Fisher and Lydia both compress their true cores, and both Luna and Monk cultivate yellows. Many of the knights become high-level orange cores, while a few stay red. The majority of their growing strength comes from the borrowed stats they can pull from the system, as their talents as third-class humans have natural limits. Bree achieves a true yellow core, and so does her brother Rodrigo, who stays back in the human world as its guardian. She and the other 2 administrators in the lower realm reach full saturation in fact. Every few months, a Galactic Trade Commission meeting is run by Bree and Alvaron, welcoming the hundreds of millions of worlds that have been assimilated each time. To primitive worlds that never knew there was anyone else out in the stars with systems, they are perceived as immortal and unfathomably powerful beings. As more of these meetings pass, and the worldwide connectivity system grows, connecting more and more worlds and pushing back demonic forces that even the star system of the elites had been fighting for their entire lives and believed it was a lost war. Even they begin to look up to these new rulers. The Knights already hold such unfathomable power. It allows third-class humans at the Red Core rank to easily suppress the strongest elite first-class demons in some wars. The commander's power is far beyond the comprehension of the strongest of worlds. They are capable of suppressing the strongest noble demons with their auras alone. It makes the thought of generals, and the rising emperor himself, seem like a myth or a god. While some have seen them with their own eyes, and there are old video recordings of them in action in wars, the more time that passes, the more even these become legends, buried with theories, and no real recent proof other than the fact that the worldwide connectivity system exists. The administrators could easily explain where they have gone or quantify their power, but over time it has become easier to just let the masses see them as mysterious gods. To be truthful, the lack of any communication or signal of life from Maria or Jay in over 3 full years is very strange. Even Abby went dark recently. The only connection between realms is Bree and Ava's updates as the realm wave passes, and the occasional message from Raven or Ari when they are not busy working on a project on the Mensa Citadel. In the Green Zone, over 10 days pass. The Grand Citadel's 3-tiered infrastructure is completely built out, and Ether commands for fast travel access between the orbiting trading centers, as well as the Mensa and Ellipsia Citadel, are created to connect the megastructures together. There are no longer blockades and demon-run access points keeping the hundreds of millions of civilized lords away from conversing throughout the zone. Hundreds of thousands of structures are built in the Grand Citadel, and the warlords come together with the 3 generals present to create new trade regulations for current citizens, as well as the newly arriving lords from the lower realm. With the increasing numbers of worlds connected to the worldwide connectivity system, the placement of dungeons using Throne's outdated technology with the use of randomized surges is no longer necessary. Luminite infused with advanced ether commands and custom dungeons can be directly transferred to connected worlds as long as an administrator or general confirms it. Alvaron's mind works fast enough to bridge the gap between realms without any delay, and has created an interface within the system to connect with the Ogre Conglomeration's dungeon business. It seamlessly connects these dungeon farms to worlds that want to rent out space and mana to allow their citizens to grow stronger and for upper realm businesses to profit as well. The only warlord and general that have not witnessed this rapid growth period are Seraphel and Abby. They are still both suspended in a state of enlightenment deeper within the fortress. For over 10 days straight, ancient arrays made of high-quality ether have been rotating and activating around the outside of this citadel. Many races of past overseers have left their inheritance keys behind throughout the lower and upper realms, and without them, these commands cannot be activated. Not even the current overseer could forcefully do so without the key and a member of the fallen race. The human and wyvern absorb all of the celestial energy left behind by this pure white wyvern, saturating their soul energy cores with such a dense essence that they both have to fully activate every one of their ranked-up buffs to fully assimilate. Royal vibrations, and the memories that once belonged to this wyvern following its path of domination throughout its life, are imprinted on these 2 minds. Millions of years in the lower realm, and its sworn duty to heal, protect, and conserve the Wyvern race and all those lesser races that were being suppressed beneath it. Even dense waves of green divine threads fill this chamber and start saturating the two green true cores. By the time the realm wave ripples through the fortress, the ceremony of transferring this inheritance has almost come to an end. Their vibrations have altered, with a deeper understanding of this deceased being's past. Even Seraphel has learned new things about his race. This white wyvern and a collection of noble-grade worlds in the lower realm made peace deals with the demons under the Morvale family's new era. The wyverns stopped hunting the demons in the lower realm where they were still dominant, and in return, the demons promised a peaceful agreement to let wyverns live on in the cyan and green zones as a thank you for letting their new generation prosper. However, countless backstabs and meticulous planning and one-sided slaughters that could not even be called wars occurred first in the upper realm, and eventually, once weakened enough, carried out in the lower realm too. This wyvern was too naive, betting on peace, and their race was wiped out in a matter of a few million years. Memories before even this white wyvern died show the decline of many other races that made deals with Lucian. As Abby and Seraphel digest and accept its inheritance, their own vibrations start to heighten, nearing that of a royal. Their divine cores have fully saturated, and even have pushed past the point of what a true green core should be able to hold in this zone. It is a side effect of being within the natural aura of the immortal healer's celestial form. Absurd amounts of extra stress on the body or soul can be instantaneously healed. So, despite the fact that their cores should be breaking and shattering their celestial forms over and over again from all this energy, they are still unconscious and in a state of bliss with perfect health. The outside of their greater energy forms start to bend space so drastically that cyan threads begin to compress and form naturally, and very familiar cracks begin tearing upward through this zone. Maria and I stare up at a rectangular artificial rift in space created by this void creeper. The cyan zone disappears, and the imagery behind the rift turns dark blue. All I see is an endless ocean. Massive waves crash and slosh about. There are no landmarks or anything in sight. It is just a sea. I wait, expecting the void creeper to keep turning its clocks, maybe to show us the purple zone or continue flipping through them to let us choose where to go. However, the dark humming being just stops here. The five-faced clock glows silver for a moment, then returns to its natural state. It turns its head down away from the rift, and just stares forward, waiting in silence. The high-quality ether in the air activates many more commands that I can't see or understand, and I can finally move my body again. I run forward, and so does Maria. We come together in the center of the raised platform and stare up at the massive void creeper. She yells out to it, "What is all this? What do you want from us?" All that comes back is a consistent low hum. Maria exhales and stares up at the clocks, pushing source resin through her eyes to look deeper. At the same time, I look around and truly take in the reality of the ravine. We've been down here for 1,000 years, yet my body and soul feel as though they have only aged 10 or 15 years at most. I don't know what this creature did, or who sent it, or if it was an automated feature of this legacy tomb, but it somehow saved us from dying of old age in that realm wave. In the process, it's made our celestial energy so much more pure, letting our energy maturity age even if we didn't. Instead of the particles of high-quality ether in the air being a total unsensible mystery, I'm able to finally begin to comprehend how dense it really is. Small bits of comprehension of how it would be possible to create a barrier like the ones the Imperials built creep into my subconscious. However, the true commands and complex structures are still unknown. I think it has something to do with the heightened state of intuition I felt during this state of enlightenment. Even as it comes down, I still can see and feel things I shouldn't be able to. Even my vibrations are deeper and stronger than they should be, and all of my past absorbed memories surge through me with greater quality. My body burns, my energy pathways ache, and a ringing sound in my ears grows louder. My body is screaming at me to let it grow strong enough to allow the information I've just taken in to spread out properly. It's like this form and environment are holding me back. Maria and I both look at each other, coming to the same conclusion. We need to ascend to the dark blue zone. Both of us jump upward, holding hands, and into the rectangular rift. Our heads burst through first, and instead of a violent reaction like the forced rift between the green and cyan zones, this area is calm. There is an extremely low amount of blue threads in the air. As our necks, then torsos come through, both of us reflexively summon our soul swords. The density of blue threads has already increased the single meter we have risen. It is not a lot, but it is noticeable. By the time our feet float up through the rift, it starts to close below us, and we begin absorbing the dark blue threads into our bodies to cycle into our cores. We're in a very thin and compact rectangular zero-gravity elevator upward. I still see the ocean above. This feels just like the slow walk up the throne, when I was ascending from yellow to green. It is a manufactured and controlled environment. Not all ascensions have to be life-threatening. Both of us relax once we realize this and enjoy the slow ride up while we absorb blue threads. However, part of my mind cannot stay focused, as the instant the rift below us closes, blocking out any more access to the ravine. Billions of notifications rush into my mind. I'm reconnecting to the system. Below the rift as it closes, the white pillar within the ravine pulses, and the remaining high-quality ether to activate this legacy inheritance is channeled into the two glyphs in the statues. They are the only thing that shines in this dark abyss for a moment, until they burn out completely and disappear. An invisible ripple of energy echoes through every zone of the lower and upper realms, only sensed by a handful of beings. The statues and the temple all crumble back to black stone, returning to the dead ravine devoid of life. The void creeper's clocks dull, as its purpose has been fulfilled. It tears open a rift in space and walks through in two long strides, disappearing from reality as though it was never here. Chapter 9:16. Level Up, X118, 196. New Soul Bond formed. 1. Soulbound Amplifier Upgrade. Celestial Emperor's Soul Sword has reached LVL. 5. New Soulbound Artifact Class Gear equipped. Ancient Royals Chestplate. Celestial Demons Shoulder Guards. Celestial Demons Wrist Guards. Celestial Demons Gauntlets. Celestial Demons Upper Leg Guards. Celestial Demons Lower Leg Guards. Celestial Demons Boots. New Soulbound Sentinel Class Gear equipped. Corruption of the True Royal. Congratulations! Rising Emperor's Domain milestone reached. 7014, 620, 939/50000000000 worlds claimed. New perk unlocked. Galactic Advance. Info. Generals may now borrow an additional 1% each of total borrowed stats. The Rising Emperor may now borrow an additional 5% of all base stat points and mana control efficiency from all subordinates under the allegiance of the Rising Emperor. Members affected by this perk are not required to be within range of the Rising Emperor's domain. The Rising Empress I position has been automatically appointed due to a system-altering soul bond. A manual override of the total 30% of borrowed stats from all generals, administrators, commanders, and knights may be accessed. In the event of the Rising Emperor's absence, the Rising Empress may access all of the remaining stats and system functionalities until his return. This buff stacks with the Galactic Player perk, Galactic Footprint perk, a Light in the Darkness perk, Path to Domination perk, Authority Among Worlds perk, Ruler of Worlds perk, World Collector perk, World Domination perk, Imperial Reach perk, Expansion perk, Dominance perk, Authority perk, Power Holder perk, and Ruler's Gaze perk if used simultaneously. These are only the most intense notifications that float to the top of my consciousness. It seems the system was still active even while hidden from my senses. I don't know where all of these level-ups came from, but the majority was most likely from that royal demon. My level has almost doubled. Reading LVL. 247,510 at the top of my status. All of the soul armor I've been crafting has buffs in all 5 stat areas. Almost as powerful as my soul sword, especially the chestplate that was infused with a royal's horn. They have all become celestial-grade artifact class soul weapons, far stronger than my blood-bonded gear beneath. Even my soul sword leveled up after absorbing all of the leftover royal and high noble grade soul weapons that the demon collected over the years. This was all partially expected. However, the notification about my corruption being a Sentinel-class artifact is surprising. It contains the lingering will of Muriel Vermilion, the first royal demon I killed, and has drained that same resentment and desire to destroy the 5 great families from every demon I've killed since. Yet, it uses my demon's core as a vessel, and my own will to destroy the royal families has overpowered it, making its essence my own. The final major notification makes me smile, as somehow I've gained almost 6 billion more worlds since falling into the ravine. This has triggered a new milestone perk, allowing me to borrow up to 90% of all stats from my links of loyalty. However, it has appointed Maria as the Rising Empress. This system mutation doesn't seem to be entirely random, as all of the general stat increase updates always occurred in the past when the milestone increment started with a 5. Following this logic, this should be the final one that affects the generals directly, leaving all 5 with 5% of stats each to borrow at will. Our soul bond triggered this fusion at the same time as the system update. I come to read countless missed messages and communication attempts from the lower realm and green zone, sending live feeds of updates on what has occurred. Less than 2 weeks passed in the green zone, and over 3 years passed in the lower realm. I watched the recorded live feeds of many wars Bree, Alvaron, and Pluto have carried out, and the rapid expansion of my linked worlds now makes far more sense. Even the visuals of the new Grand Citadel and Green Zone being rebuilt to prepare for a new era of prosperity to bring back its former glory make me happy. With a smile, I send out updates to the administrators, generals, commanders, and knights to thank them for their job well done while I was away. Instantly, I get a burst of messages back. In my heightened flow state as a residual effect of the long-term exposure to high-quality ether, it is quite easy to reply to all of them at once. Dark blue divine threads are flowing through my body and seeping into my soul sword at faster and faster speeds as we float up this zero-gravity elevator toward the top of the rift. It doesn't feel painful at all. My body, cores, and soul accept these threads like I was parched, and now I'm drinking a cool glass of water that never ends. The heat and pressure that were building up in my energy pathways and cores are released. It is like a flood of power that was locked behind invisible seals now is available to me without any limitations. As both my core and Maria's turn from cyan to dark blue, our soul bond grows even stronger, and our vibrations evolve to a frequency of even deeper confidence and certainty. During this eruption of power, as our bodies and minds are finally growing strong enough to withstand the energy maturity gained during the last 1,000 years, Maria's body starts to glow with a bright white light. I can see what's happening in her status, as she's gained a massive amount of levels 2 from killing demons in the ravine, and in order to take full advantage of this enlightened ascension state, she's using this opportunity to rank up. It seems as though parts of her body and soul already have inside the ravine, after she surpassed level 100000. However, now that the system is reconnecting, the final activation of the mana-based commands is occurring. It fills the air with a calming pressure, almost exactly like the high-quality ether we were just soaked in for centuries. It deepens my own concentration just from being in contact with her, and I can also study the intricate process taking place. This is the first time I'm witnessing a system command activate in front of me with such depth. It doesn't exactly feel like some god or all-powerful machine is triggering the commands. Just like any other ether command, the system itself has its rules and limitations. Just like the Imperial's barrier and the array that Void Creeper made, I cannot understand or see the true complex functions of what is happening, but I'm starting to see some of the gears in this mechanism turn. My eyes are widened in awe while I adapt to the growing density of divine threads around me, and experience Maria's rank up with her as we ascend. It is almost seamless. The slow ride upward brings us a kilometer through space at most, and only takes a few hours. I feel all of my cells and energy pathways being rebuilt and adapted to a higher level of existence. Just as easily as we entered this rift is how we exit. Our heads slip through first, then our orbiting swords and torsos, and our legs last. Maria's full-body glow of a rank-up dims and ceases the instant the rift disappears below us. In every direction, for as far as I can see, there is an endless blue ocean. We're about 100,000 kilometers above the sea. But some of the waves easily swell up to close the gap by half every few passing seconds. The divine energy density in the air is thick, and the overwhelming gravity shift reflects that. It's thousands of times more intense than the ravine. However, both Maria and I, in our base forms, are strong enough to withstand this pressure. The dark blue divine cores in our chests are cycling like furnaces, pushing our own gravity waves out into this endless sea. The more I look around, the more strange this setting feels. It's empty, but I feel the presence of life nearby. I don't know how, but I can sense that there are extremely strong soul bonds somewhere in this ocean. They are invisible and no physical energy readings can be seen. It is a new sense I've unlocked during this enlightenment, but have not mastered yet. The more I scan my surroundings, I begin to notice the white mist that is expelled into the air after each crashing wave below. It's made of pure celestial energy. So pure, even a small droplet of it is equal in purity to the refined celestial energy we managed to collect from the entire ravine. I realize this isn't water below us. It's pure celestial energy in a dense liquid state. It is so much denser than the air that it's just formed at the bottom of this zone. Maria and I float upward and spin back to back. I pour a large amount of my celestial fire into my eyes, while hers sparkle with source resin, and we scan our surroundings. The ambient celestial energy and thick blue threads in the air continue to pour into our bodies and increase our energy output slowly. At first, I see nothing at all, just endless ocean forever on all sides. However, both of us lock onto an area of the sea where the waves seem to be larger than the opposite direction. One way, the ocean is calm, with waves that hardly even splash up 100 kilometers, maybe 1,000 at most. It makes the waves below us seem enormous. In the other direction, the further I look, the larger the waves become. Some look like they're peaking over 1,000,000 kilometers high. It makes the sea below us calm in comparison. We float higher out of curiosity to get a better vantage point. Chapter 9:17. The higher we float, the more waves we're able to see on the horizon. After a few minutes, the 1,000,000-kilometer-high crashing waves of celestial energy seem tiny. All off in one direction, the waves grow larger and larger, like the ocean is swelling upward to make a blue mountain in the sky that occasionally crashes to form valleys even deeper. Not only is this zone enormous, to the point where I'm able to see over 1,000,000,000 kilometers off in one direction and it still seems endless, but the amount of energy just sitting here out in the open is absurd. A handful of this ocean is equivalent to all of the celestial energy in the ravine. The mist continuously flows into our bodies, and the dense dark blue threads in the air make our divine cores weigh us into reality deeper with every second that passes. I feel unrestrained and free. There are no seals or restrictions at all on my aura or senses. It makes my royal vibrations blossom further in this environment of pure freedom. They burst outward further and further, compounding on each wave as I get stronger and my mind's depth of perception grows. I feel Maria begin to drain all of the divine threads in our surroundings, and absorb even more celestial mist from the sea than me. Both of our mana-based system senses rejuvenate and breathe in this fresh atmosphere. Over an hour passes, and we slowly drift in toward the larger waves. My vibrations flood outward over 5 billion kilometers. They all contain stacked waves of my celestial energy and advanced senses. Even from just the moment we entered the dark blue zone, I feel like I have grown 10 times stronger again and am continuing to grow. Maria and I float apart a few kilometers at first, then a few hundred, then thousands, and eventually over 1,000,000. Though, with our growing auras, it still feels like we're right next to each other, basically cycling energy through one another's souls. However, with these growing senses, I can feel the presence of the life forms nearby with stronger intensity. I feel that there are two of them. Their personalities ripple through the air like I'm digesting their feelings and mannerisms. One of them is very rigid, strong, and simple-minded. It is the older one. However, the other is eccentric, hot-tempered, and very fearsome, so much so that it feels like multiple minds are stacked into one soul. Despite these strange readings, they don't seem to be hostile. If anything, they are giving off the vibes of a playful nature. It almost makes this more interesting, as if these waves are what a playful state creates. The power of these creatures must be unfathomable. Even if it is interesting, it is not concerning. After all, I'm sensing these waves in my base form without borrowing any stats, nor activating any ranked-up buffs. The will of a true royal radiates through my being, and I'm positive whatever these creatures are, they aren't demons. Eventually, the air itself becomes far more saturated with celestial energy. The pure power from the crashing waves has sent massive amounts of mist into the atmosphere that can't easily just drop back down into the sea. Dense, temporary white clouds of ether are in the sky. It makes it far easier to digest, making our celestial energy intake surge even higher. Every few minutes that pass, my celestial energy pool doubles the intensity of my red flames, and makes all of my new armor glow brighter. Even my soul sword that calmly orbits around me starts to vibrate slightly with hunger once external waves of celestial energy begin to hit us. These new waves come from the sky, as though they're radiation from clashing attacks. They come in shock waves that span over 1 billion kilometers, and the further we travel, the more frequent they get. One in particular finally lights up my senses like fireworks. I can feel the raw essence in its ricochet, and even pick up on royal vibrations matching the soul imprints I felt when we first entered this abyss. The strange thing is that each of them has the same royal vibrations pouring out of them. It feels kind of similar to what I felt when sensing that ancient royal's dragon for the first time. However, these are smooth, powerful, and successfully assimilated vibrations. Almost exactly like the corruption that slowly swirls around the outside of my body, now mixed with my celestial fire as an automatic defense. The mental outline of these creatures is so enormous, it's almost hard to believe. I have to begin analyzing them in concentrated parts for my mind to catch up and piece their true forms together in random large patches. They're about 100 billion kilometers away, but considering the massive size of the largest swells and destructive crashing waves in the sea, they're only a few dozen waves away. There is an enormous hydra with 5 heads. Each one of them erupts with a rusted red-colored celestial energy. They all attack a tortoise from many sides. The tortoise has a spiked shell and a sharp, curved beak. It too charges up an energy attack from its mouth and releases a bronze and white beam of energy back at the hydra. It explodes through 2 of the hydra's rust-colored energy beams, then turns its body and pulls in its head to take on the remaining 3 with its shell. 5 massive shockwaves surge through the air filled with raw celestial energy, just like any of the other surges we felt before. However, they don't immediately go in for counters to continue this battle. Instead, the 5 heads of the hydra, and the eyes of the tortoise that are each larger than stars in the lower realm, they all turn toward me and Maria. Somehow they've sensed that I'm looking their way. Their bodies are jet black, like they're made of pure stone. Yet, they vibrate and have pulses of the rust and bronze-colored energy that ripples through them before releasing an attack. I've never seen anything so massive in my entire life. Every passing second I use the maximum amount of celestial energy and divine threads from my environment to enhance my brain and senses to take in the full picture of the scene. Even a single scale on the Hydra is larger than citadels in the green zone. The distance between myself and these living soul weapons is wider than the entire ravine. It's nearly the distance of a full solar system in the lower realm. I'm using every single perception-based celestial grade skill to enhance my senses, and the information I gather from this continues to grow and baffle me. One thing isn't confusing. That is the fact that their playful auras, as they were sparring each other for fun, are no longer present. The vibrations of a guard dog sensing intruders ripple through the air, and instantly 6 beams of light come flying out of their mouths, rocketing our way. Despite Maria being over 3 million kilometers away from me, we might as well be right next to each other. The width of a single beam spans 10 times the distance between us. As they all converge into one, a bright bronze and rust-colored aura fills the sky. The closer it gets, the better readings on the celestial energy density I feel, and the strength of the infused royal vibrations I can gauge. This may only be a warning shot, but I'm positive my natural form is not going to cut it. A grin grows across my face as without any hesitation, I release the transformation I've been holding back since Maria, and I consolidated our vibrations with a soul bond. All of the bright red celestial fire and dark coils of corruption creating an outer layer of protection begin to tighten against the white soul armor I'm wearing. It flows around in a natural state, then slowly seeps through all of the cracks and joint separations in the armor. This is the outer manifestation of my soul seeping into my muscles and bones, and begins triggering a familiar style of growth. My whole body expands, and so does the output of vibrations on my environment. I begin to glow a pristine white shimmering light, that of my old noble human form. This light grows brighter and brighter as my body grows to be 10, 20, even 100 meters tall. Every moment I grow larger with my celestial energy-infused vibrations triggering this change, so does all of my bonded gear. Once my body surpasses 250 meters, it begins to emit a crimson glow, and once it surpasses 500 meters, an obsidian black ray of corruption-colored light mixes with the metallic hue. At 1 kilometer in height, the growing slows, and the two colors have blended to create a domineering dark crimson aura. A dense dark blue core burns in my chest, and slowly, the red and black energy that seeped into my armor at the start of this transformation flows out again. The structurally changed. So many self-made seals have been lifted from its essence. For my entire stay in the ravine, I was forced to suppress my energy. At first, it was so that stronger demons couldn't sense our auras, and later, because of some seal made of high-quality ether by the Imperials. Until now, the measly royal vibrations I've been using in my base form are just scratching the surface of the actual power that can be released in the form of a true royal human. Even now, this is only a basic manifestation of my royal form. I feel that triggering the true transformation would be extremely dangerous, and would only be truly possible in a state of heightened emotions and desperation. Doing so on a whim when it is not necessary would be a waste of my will. Instead, I activate my mana-based greater energy form in order to make full use of the celestial energy flowing into my being. On top of this, I activate my astral form to take full advantage of the divine threads all throughout the atmosphere. In a matter of milliseconds, a colossal energy body manifestation bursts out and around my royal body. It grows to hundreds of thousands of kilometers in height in an instant. I feel my domain of perception and control over my environment exponentially rise. Maria undoes the seal on her vibrations as well, and allows her infinite number of stacked cores that mimic a Fibonacci sequence to activate 4,181 points. This is only 4 spirals greater than the 610 she used to fight the dragon in the ravine. All of these cores overlap and fill her entire body to act as individual pseudocores while pulling in energy from all around us. An exceptionally high wave crashes below in this very moment, and her area of activation overlaps with the upper cusp. It fuels her transformation to activate her own mana-based greater ice goddess form. Then her celestial energy-based angel's form right after that grows in comparison to the amount of divine threads and celestial energy poured into it. Yet, this alone is enough to bend gravity around her, and grow to match my energy form's height, nearing 500,000 kilometers in size. She doesn't even need to use her new ranked-up form I witnessed her receive while we ascended to this zone. I was even prepared to use my sacred body, then begin borrowing stats and finally release the true vibrations I've been holding back. But as my mind catches up to all of the data flowing into it, I realize in this state I'm not even going to have to grab my sword. It pulses with hunger, but I send it a wave of telepathy and let it orbit around me. Your first kill after this last level up deserves an even greater opponent than this. Be patient. All I get back is a reluctant pulse of even brighter crimson light before it dims and waits following my wishes. Maria and I both lift a single hand in the air, and 2 enormous red and blue arrays begin to form in front of us. They span over 50 million kilometers wide, and easily a few million thick. They overlap each other perfectly, forming a dense layer of pure ice, with strong waves of fire intertwined within. It appears to be a flaming disk of ice in front of the incoming 6 massive beams of rust and bronze celestial energy. As they collide, we stay calm, floating in the air behind our protection, and shockwaves equivalent to the spar just moments ago radiate through the dark blue zone for hundreds of billions of kilometers. About half of the celestial energy from the impact explodes off the sides of the defensive array. However, half seems to have disappeared. The solid ice is strong enough to block the blunt force impact, and the flames circulating through it are hot and destructive enough to incinerate and absorb all of the energy that tries to push through. Massive amounts of the attack thrown at us are eaten by my celestial fire. The sound of an ancient tortoise's guttural grunting and hissing, followed by 5 simultaneous roars of a hydra, fill the zone afterward, as these ancient beasts realize the intruders somehow survived. Chapter 9:18. As the shockwave of massive celestial energy beams fills the air, thousands of tendrils of royal vibration-enforced celestial energy connect the back of this defensive array toward Maria and me. Her ice blocked the attack's blunt impact while my fire siphoned out over half of the impact's force. The excess energy from this attack comes flowing down these tendrils, mainlined into our greater forms to be processed instantly. Neither of us wastes a moment and uses this raw power to form attacks of our own. The array dissolves as we absorb it back into our energy forms too, and 2 waves of red and blue light fly back over the ocean. The red fire in a compact flickering ball, no more than 2 million kilometers wide, and a glistening ice spear less than 1 million kilometers thick, but sharpened with a point as fine as a needle at its tip. Both attacks rocket back through space, dominating the environment. Waves crash and swell in their way, but the compact divine threads and royal vibrations strengthening them break through this raw celestial sea with ease. Massive holes break through the waves, and reality bends under their weight. The fireball and ice spear veer toward each other, then begin spinning around one another to build up more speed and invigorate the other's attack. Once within a few billion kilometers of the monsters, the attacks release this built-up momentum and targeting separate beasts. The fireball slams into the neck of the closest hydra's head, and the ice spear collides with the edge of the tortoise's shell. The attacks may seem small against these creatures that raise their bodies dozens of billions of kilometers above the sea. However, on impact, our 2 attacks explode and release their own raw power. It is devastating. A massive fireball explodes, instantly incinerating the neck of the hydra I've hit. Its head disintegrates from the pressure, and the 2 closest heads nearby it are caught up in the blast. They begin to crack and fragment from the pressure of the blast, then are consumed with flames, melting to pure celestial energy on the spot. The furthest 2 remaining heads have a long enough time to react and plunge themselves deep beneath the sea. Beside this eruption of flames, Maria's spear of ice breaks through the tortoise's shell, causing an explosion of its own, large enough to blow off one of its legs and a massive chunk of its defenses. The areas exposed to the blast are all covered in a dense blue and sparkling layer of ice. It begins to spread, cracking this monster's shell more, and seeping toward its head. The shock waves that follow disrupt all of the waves around us, imprinting a crater of gravity into the sea. Horrific roars of ancient beasts echo through the air, and the massive disruption of the environment creates clouds of celestial energy and chaotic bursts of consolidated sea essence, fire, and ice that burst through the air. It is an immaculate sight to see, as the ocean has been carved out, and the zone itself quivers from our arrival. In response, the 2 massive black sentinels do not run. Instead, insidious rust and bronze-colored auras burst out from their cores. The vibrations of a shared royal infusion burst out from both of them. At first, I watched the freezing shell of the tortoise stop cracking off and falling into the sea. Instead, a bronze-colored energy manifestation of a shell begins to grow back, and its eyes glow bright with fury. Maria's icy wave of poison has stopped spreading. Where I've managed to destroy 3 hydra's heads, I watch 6 grow back, and they are all bright orange-red, burning with an intensity that pushes the sea back even further than it already has. At this very moment, in the green zone of the upper realm, a critical amount of zone-breaking cracks are opening up in space within a white chamber deep inside the fortress. Unlike the times the zone cracked after the death of Muriel Vermilion and Maria's ascension breakpoint, the cracks in space within this chamber are now reaching the outside zone. The ancient white arrays that spin within this room, and growing and circling the entire fortress, all speed up. Many onlookers can see the ancient automated systems moving, but no one can sense them or feel any energy output. It's as though they are just untouchable holograms, operating at a level far higher than any low-quality ether commands in this zone. The cracks in space that split out from Abby and Seraphel's divine cores begin fracturing the perception of this white room. The visual of the white-eyed wyvern before them cracks and starts to fade away. It has been long dead, but memories from its soul still dictate its personality. The wyvern's eyes are full of hope, and a smile forms on its mouth while it watches the two green cores completely turn to cyan. The last remnants of its soul dissolve into the room as pure celestial energy and raw royal vibrations. They are all absorbed into the last living wyvern and the immortal healer carrying the inheritance of the wyverns from the lower realm. White waves of energy become infused into the glyphs of her staff, and both of their vibrations mutate and go through a final shocking change once the white wyvern's final memories imprint on their consciousness. The legacy of a royal wyvern is transferred, and a new mutated royal path is formed at the same instant that these two both gain the experience from killing this monster, as though the system is witnessing this ancient white wyvern's death. Their bodies glow bright cyan, and the room fills with so many cracks creating rifts to the cyan zone that all 6 walls fall away. Only cyan threads exist around them, but they are in the storm between realms, only being protected by the high-quality ether commands of the fortress. Instead of letting them leave, this legacy chamber has one final command programmed into it. In the shape of what the room looked like before, a bright white glow shimmers in this storm of cyan threads that surrounds them. Then, everything flashes bright white for a fraction of a second. All of the arrays in the green zone's fortress power down and slowly stop spinning. Abby and Seraphel finally wake up out of their trance of enlightenment, with their celestial forms flowing with unbelievable power and bright options to rank up, glowing in their system notifications. When they look down and take in their surroundings, they do not recognize a thing. Below them is a bright cyan city floating above the clouds. The air is full of dense celestial energy, and the presence of thousands of high noble vibrations hits their senses from below all at once. On the far side of the cyan zone, in Lucian Morvale's palace full of guards, many of them sense this disturbance in the zone but are not able to report the news. At the back of the palace, the family head's throne is empty. This is because he is in an extremely well-guarded chamber deep below his palace, resting at the bottom of the cyan zone. It is guarded around its outside by many more high noble demons, yet he is the only one allowed inside. Lucian calmly stands inside a heavily fortified room, with nothing but a silver reactor at its center. His arms are crossed, and his eyes are closed. The family head's mind is connected to a communication channel that links all of the zones of the upper realm. To him, the world around him is dark, like an isolated void hidden from reality. It is a secure channel. All Lucian sees right now is a dark blue armored demon holding a 5-faced clock, and the outline of a purple demon high above him with white wisps circling around its being. The Overseer has promised us access to the seal once confirmation of the final threat has been dealt with. Confirm this and we can move on to the final step. Double-checking that the cyan zone and dark blue zone's structural reinforcements are ready for the shock this will put on the upper realm. Sacrificing the green zone will be quite disappointing to see, but necessary to preserve our existence. Lucian smiles and sends packets of information holding in-depth scans of the ravine when he checked on it a decade after the realm wave began showing no signs of life from the threats that are spoken of. Here is your proof. One of my old projects killed them. Even if he didn't, humans can't survive 1,000 years in their base forms. There is no way out of your prison. Snapshots of the ravine every few hundred years after follow, but the only interesting reading is of the temple that the old ancient royal spent millions of years wasting his life around. There have been long periods of time where he lured whole generations of demons toward it and expelled immense amounts of ether to try breaking the rift above just like this. No damage to the only exit of this prison was made, and the Imperial Seal limits all core breakthroughs for manual ascension. This Cyan Core demon sends the rest of the footage with full confidence. As the purple demon receives this information, oddly, Samir Vanguard flinches and looks over his shoulder. Lucian's eyes become sharp, as he's never seen this machine-like family head act this way. Samir speaks abruptly and out of line. I'm sorry to interrupt. My sentinels have managed to hurt each other somehow in their friendly spar. Lucian turns his back too, as the sensation of an extremely old royal's vibrations touches his senses. It's very different than it used to be, but there's no doubt of what this demon feels. He speaks out of line as well. There's a wyvern in my zone. I don't know how this happened. Before Lucian or Samir can get another word out, purple threads fill the entire mental void, putting pressure down on both family heads to an extreme neither of them have ever felt. The Imperial family head's voice echoes through their minds. You have made a grave error. The intruders still live, and they stole the legacy of the Creator. Do you know what this means? Chapter 9:19. It means someone other than the Overseer has the ability to trigger the reset. Pressure in this mental chamber builds up so much that Lucian struggles to breathe and almost falls to his knees. Samir activates enough mental commands within his armor to alleviate the pressure but still does not dare to move a muscle or speak out of line again. The Imperial family head raises a hand, and white wisps of energy follow like they're alive. No more games. Personally deal with the threats, or I will seal your zones out of the final paradise to mitigate risk. I'm activating the Imperial emergency systems in the lower realm and green zone to cleanse them of all remaining dangerous life. Before either family head can respond, the mental link is severed, with only lingering disappointment ingrained in their psyches. Samir Vanguard turns around and calmly walks out of a chamber deep below the sea. He takes an enormous elevator up over 100 billion kilometers to reach the top of the sea. Here there are very few waves. The rise and fall of ripples in the sea barely rise more than a kilometer or two at most. It is basically calm and flat considering the size of the structure he now stands on. There is an enormous base of operations made of black stone, with 3 enormous towers filled with troops, weapons, and facilities to make technology progress in testing ether commands and soul weapons. Each one of the towers is easily 10 billion kilometers wide and over 200 tall. They are megastructures rooted to the bottom of the zone and scan trillions of kilometers of the sea for data collection all throughout the dark blue zone. The instant Samir leaves his chamber and reaches the surface, thousands of mental messages from lookouts, research centers, and data labs hit his consciousness, giving visuals of the threats and their approximate power levels and abilities. He happily accepts this data, but as he looks out into the open sea, he feels the clash of celestial energy himself. The royal vibrations he's infused into his own soul weapons give him a perfect description matching all of the readings he's already being shown. Samir sends a message back. Very good. I will be taking care of this issue immediately. Tower 1, I need your full attack squad to come with me. Tower 2, bring an analysis team as well to surround the battlefield for close-range research. Tower 3, release the amplifiers. I'm going to have to activate my true royal form to eliminate this threat. All 3 towers start to ripple with dark blue divine threads, and complex ether commands begin activating all over them as teams of demons begin following orders. Tens of thousands of armored demons begin floating out from Tower 1 in a battle formation. Many of them hold enormous soul weapons and give off an ancient aura of war as though they have been fighting since the day they were born. A much smaller team of demons comes out of Tower 2 on flying artifacts that do not look battle-ready but are covered in glyphs and arrays that are taking in information about their environment. The 3rd tower releases 2 orbs of white light that burst out from its top and begin shooting off toward the battle in the sea. Meanwhile, Maria and I both watch the devastating wounds of the Hydra and Tortoise we just landed heal before our eyes. In fact, the eruption of anger and primal rage that fills them makes them feel even stronger. When I stare at the heads of the Hydra I destroyed, and truly look deep into its essence, an old memory pieces itself back together in my mind. It's of a time long ago back on the human world, near the start of our journey when we were all first learning of Chi for the first time, better known now as unrefined ether. I managed to find a set of strange red stones in an auction, and it gave me a temporary buff called the Red Hydra's Rage. It acted similar to soul energy, tapping into the same kind of power but had very strange effects on the body and system itself. It only lasted a limited amount of time, but whenever Ember spoke of this Red Hydra, he spoke of it the same as he did other divine beasts, or overseer races of the past. As I'm struck with the energy wave of this Hydra, I start to feel an extremely similar aura and wonder how exactly a beast like this has managed to get itself trapped in the dark blue zone. As far as I'm aware, the wyverns were the last overseers, and it was elves before them. If this is the last remnant of a Hydra race showing itself in this sea, it raises far more questions than it answers. It also turns my head to the bronze tortoise that is screeching and standing its ground just as easily, making me believe this must be an ancient extinct race as well. All of these questions and realizations only take up a small portion of my brain. The more active parts are already charging up more attacks to finish the job we started. 8 fireballs the same size as the one I threw before begin to summon into thin air around me. The same happens with Maria. She summons 3 spears of ice but grows them over 10 times as large as her last attack. This time she does not want to crack the shell. She wants to obliterate it. The sentinels' open mouths are glowing rust and bronze-colored, as they're trying to counter, but our fire and ice fill the sky with light. Another explosion indents the sea to create a deeper crater than before. The shockwave is so enormous we can even see down to the bottom of the zone. All of the sentinels' desperate counters as they send attacks back are suppressed and overshadowed by the raining balls of fire and ice spears. Each one of the Hydra's heads is hit by a separate fireball, and it incinerates each one down to its body in an instant. The buildup of its rust-colored essence only adds to the explosion as it destabilizes. All 3 of Maria's spears hit dead-on in a triangle pattern in the center of its massive spiked shell. It's as though there is zero resistance at all. The arrows blast enormous holes through this giant beast, one of them even disintegrating the tortoise's head that's been tucked into its shell. The shockwave after impact infests all of the remaining pieces of its shell and turns them to shattered ice. Even the sea of pure celestial energy itself gets caught up in the wave, and large amounts of the raw energy are overpowered and integrated into Maria's aura. The same goes for my flames. The Hydra's body disappears in fire, and my aura soaks up its celestial energy. Even the sea turns crimson. Both of our true royal vibrations increase in power with every passing second. Not only does every shockwave and exposure to more celestial energy make our soul energy core stronger, but it widens our depth of perception. Seeing more of reality and conquering large areas of space builds our willpower exponentially. The feeling is pure euphoria, absorbing so much power without any limitations on our bodies, minds, or souls any longer. The only strange sensation I feel is the fact that we've destroyed these creatures, but no system notifications ring in my mind. To compound on this fact, I can still sense their presence somehow. There is no actual energy present to see or feel, but it is that odd sensation that brought us in this direction in the first place. The presence of soul ties. An invisible weight is still present in the center of gravity where these 2 sea monsters once stood. If all my senses were shut off, and I was blind, I would be certain they were in front of me out of pure intuition without a doubt. I turned to my right, seeing Maria stare back at me a few million kilometers away with the same look in her eyes. They're not dead yet, she sends via telepathy. You're right, I send back while we both turn our heads forward again. A wave of royal vibrations washes through the air. It seemingly come from nowhere, but the readings I start to sense are as though 2 monstrous beasts are still before me. Something very strange is happening. The outlines of the monsters start to reform before my eyes. Dark black stone-like material begins to summon into existence from thin air. It's kind of hard to see at first, like only thin threads are holding the outline of these beasts together. Then it becomes large areas and eventually, they take their physical forms as if they were never destroyed. I can hardly believe what I'm seeing. A 16-headed Hydra materializes from thin air and ripples with the same rust-colored celestial energy as before. The bronze tortoise's shell grows back 1 spiked section at a time, and its sharp beaked head pops out with glowing angry eyes. 17 beams of celestial energy come blasting our way with exactly the same intensity as they did at the start of this fight. My mind is racing for answers as I activate a defensive array. I feel the gears in Maria's mind turning as well as she puts up a shield of ice to bond with my fire. The attack bounces off like before, and we absorb over half of its celestial energy, yet I can't understand what I just saw. As our array dissolves and we charge another counter up, I don't even know where to aim. They don't have cores, brains, hearts, or really any weak points. I don't even know how they manage to resummon their unique celestial energy. There is a hidden mechanism here that is a complete mystery to me. I send 16 fireballs the Hydra's way, and 5 massive spears of ice fly toward the tortoise. But I'm almost at a loss for words and thought. That was so strange. It has something to do with the heavy soul bonds I felt, and most likely a power of its wielder. I need more power and a closer look. As I spread my aura out to try and watch what happens once these next fireballs collide, my eyes widen for a different reason. I sense tens of thousands of demon-shaped objects holding the same royal vibrations moving our way. We're being surrounded. Chapter 9:20. Abby looks below her and sees a massive Cyan city rising out of the clouds. The strange place she's been teleported into has intense gravity, and the density of the celestial energy and Cyan threads in the air is thousands of times higher than the green zone. If she were standing in her base form right now, she might have been extremely injured by the pressure. However, in the manifestation of the immortal healer, all of this physical damage flows right through her. Abby exerts a massive amount of pressure on the environment around her, but when reality attempts to push back, it's as if she is just a hologram. Seraphel flaps his wings slowly to stay afloat beside her in a completely different situation. His celestial body does not work the same way and is exposed to the raw power of this higher zone. He may have trained his mind and body to the peak of what is possible in the green zone for millennia, but the immense pressure on his body and mind has made every flap of his massive wings strenuous. There are hints of green, sparkling energy tethered into his greater form, constantly healing him because he is soul-bound to Abby, and these effects are multiplied by the fact that they are right beside each other. However, the raw environment is not the only thing they have to worry about. Thousands of high noble vibrations hit their senses from below, and millions of noble vibrations are weaker but still sensible beneath them. This Cyan city is full of demons, and a large amount of them sense their presence. Seraphel reflexively triggers the rank-up notification in his consciousness, as he feels trying to defend against any matured Cyan core in his current form would be dangerous. The enormous blue wyvern glows white in the sky, attracting even more stares from those that live in this city. Within a second of Seraphel's decision to rank up, Abby decides to do the same. None of the auras below are intimidating to her. She feels confident that even in a frozen state of ranking up, they could not hurt her. It would be best to do it now rather than later if a real threat shows up. She glows bright white as well. The massive wings of Seraphel's celestial body are over 100 times larger than Abby's energy form, making his outline the sight most Cyan Zone citizens see in the sky. All of the defensive systems and ether arrays that are supposed to predict intruders' time of arrival, or even shoot them out of the sky before approaching the city, are sending emergency signals all throughout the surveillance towers. Massive armies of demons that have not had to deploy in over 1 million years all come marching out from over a dozen towers. There are over 100,000 peak-strength noble demons and thousands of high nobles, many of which are fresh breakthroughs. However, each squad is led by more matured high noble demons that are of a similar strength to those that work in the palace as personal guards. They all swarm out into their practiced formations and surround the threats in the sky with their backs facing the city they must protect. Soul weapons point up at them, and once all in formation, many even fire off shots. The sky lights up with a bright display of black, purple, cyan, and white light as over 100,000 beams of noble grade and above attacks are sent toward 2 targets in the sky from every direction. Inside the blinding white lights of 2 new royals ranking up, the 2 minds are still not recovered from the massive amounts of memories and inherited power from the white wyvern in the green zone they claimed. So, in this transcendent state of ranking up, they stay half in the trance of their inheritance. It makes the barrage of attacks slamming into their bodies now part of the process. Every single demon attacking them has sworn their allegiance to Lucian Morvale. Over the last 1,000 years in the Cyan Zone, as they waited out the realm wave, they have received their orders and prepared for the sealing. A majority of them have ascended to the position they're in now because within their lifetime, they contributed to the extermination of the Wyvern race in the lower realm. The resentment and hatred for this old overseer race is potent in their vibrations, and its intent is multiplied within Abby and Seraphel's minds many times over as they feel these vibrations during such a big change in their systems. The demons don't only stop at one round of attacks. They send more in ruthless succession. In less than a minute, millions of full-powered attacks come flying in from all sides to eliminate these pests from their paradise. The white light of their rank-ups only gets brighter, and the sky lights up with massive amounts of demonic residue from the explosions. On the far side of the Cyan Zone, Lucian uses a highly fortified elevator from the bunker at the bottom of the zone up to his palace with a terrified yet angered expression on his face. The terror comes from the threat the Imperial family head made, telling him that if this problem isn't fixed, he would even seal the Cyan Zone off. Despite his position as the Cyan Zone's family head, he was not alive in the original eras of demons. This mention of a legacy of the Creator makes no sense to him, but apparently, that pillar he saw inside their old prison was more meaningful than just another desperate attempt at escaping from that insane ancient demon he locked in there. His anger pours out at Miriel. Even though he's dead and his killer escaped, he thought at least he would have taken out the Green Zone's other problems with him. How could a wyvern have possibly lived? He mutters to himself as the elevator stops at a floor right below his throne room. Even if there were stragglers, some nobles or even a high noble, they should have all died out after we took Kelfer. It was their last origin world. Lucian thinks out loud while walking forward into a room with an enormous sleeping dragon at the back of it, trying to piece together how a wyvern possibly got here without triggering the automatic zone shift arrays that allow him to accept or deny new members into the Cyan Zone. The dragon does not bother to wake up, and Lucian doesn't look its way. He just activates a few ether commands and opens up storage systems to pull 2 soul weapons in his direction. One of them wraps around his left arm like a chain, and the other is a long-handled axe he holds over his shoulder with his right. The demon walks out and back into the elevator. But how could there be a royal? It feels kind of like that white-eyed nuisance. But it isn't him. He must have something to do with this. Lucian grinds his teeth while taking deep breaths and is elevated upward right in front of his throne in the palace room. His royal vibrations are leaking out to an immense degree. Even some of the palace protection protocols are failing, and the closest high noble guard's eyes are turning white from being knocked out cold in a standing position. Lucian just slowly walks forward through the center of all of them, staring off into the cyan clouds of the zone toward his city. He stops at the edge of the palace hall with only clouds below. His widened eyes take in the absurd sight at the far edge of the Cyan Zone. The intruders glow bright white and are easily withstanding a brutal barrage of attacks from all of the city's guards.